members get free delivery on more than just groceries. Free delivery on these apples and this shirt.
أعوذ بالله من الشياطين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. We say Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alamin. Allah is Lord of the worlds. My name is Fatiha Dua Sharia. We are coming live from the research library, Fatiha Dua Sharia. My name is Mr. Sharia, Fatiha Dua Sharia. We are here live from the research library. Research library. This is in association with Dr. Tutor. Excuse the glare, brothers and sisters. I need to learn that part of doing camera work as far as the lighting. That's again a slack on my part. But again, my name is Mr. Sharia. We coming live from the research library. This is in association with Dr. Tutor. I want to focus on Dr. Tutor. Dr. Tutor is my educational platform as far as like a direct connect. It's something solid. We also have the Allaah School of Mathematics. That's why I say the primary focus is Dr. Tutor as far as something physical. because the Allaah School of Mathematics is something we're also working on, but that's more planning or organizing to make that a physical reality, an entity, or a building where somewhere on the planet, it doesn't have to be like a fancy, I mean, we would want it to be a multi-million-dollar complex, but it could just be an old rundown house, but some type of entity where it be a law school of mathematics, a law school of mathematics, where it's just going to be God, math, and prayer. God, prayer, and math. So it's really also, when you talk about the language of math, we're talking about a certain level of higher intelligence to give your child or to give yourself that knowledge to take you from ignorance. Again, as Black in America, we're dealing with the abuse and crime. Chattel slavery was a crime. The abuse, the crime of chattel slavery, American chattel slavery, American chattel slavery, we are dealing with the crime of chattel slavery in America, and it's the crime, it's really the crime of slavery in the Western Hemisphere. The crime of slavery in the Western Hemisphere, that's including the islands going all the way down to South America, and that crime of slavery in the Western Hemisphere includes the murder of the Western or West Indian. It includes the murder of the West Indian. And so I believe we're also talking about, it includes the theft of the land. I want to say the Mexican, but I think the Mexican is the West Indian. The Mexican was the West Indian before the intermixing of the Caucasian blood. And so I'm just going to put Caucasian. And these are the crimes committed by the Caucasian as a race of people, and they're guilty. Correct? So that's all we're dealing with. We're on a planet this used to be called Asia. We don't know what it was called before. It was called Asia, but now it's called Earth. So Asia could be heaven. and Earth could be the planet, if you know, that's a certain type of theory or like spiritual higher elevation. But this is what we're gonna say, Africa. This is Africa, Asia, or how I want to say it, right? What language I want to choose. I'm not gonna say Africa, because we trying to get that correct. But this is where we come from, what they call Africa, right? Right? They got these islands right here. So they took us from here. They took us from what they call Africa to these islands, and then we over here in the Western Hemisphere. So it's a crime. The crime on the planet. A crime has been committed on the planet. We talking about God. God is the police for this crime. Serious crime. Right? That's why as black men, specifically in America, younger black men, we get off of the straight path, and because of ignorance, we indulge in things that we think will progress our life from the hell that the devil is giving us. Caucasian people are the devil. So the hell that this devil gives young black men specifically, the steps we take to just progress, to be a human being, we might commit crimes. That don't mean we a devil. We just don't know no other way. That's not the same thing unless you just out here committing. Now, in your ignorance, from the straight path, it's a straight path. I mean, at its most basic level, the scripture says that it'll come a time, and we're living in these times, where everyone will know God. So to commit murder, again, God will judge your ways and actions. And so they put that feather on that scale, and if your sins weigh more than that feather, then you're going to have some problems with God. So I said to say, in your ignorance, to kill your brother as Cain killed Abel, I don't know if you can repent from that. Right? So, but in our ignorance, the things we do, that's why we have to be very careful, brothers and sisters. You have to gain control of your spirit. You have to gain control of your countenance, your walk. Because in a devil society, the spirit of the devil can consume who you are and lead you into a path of destruction that would seem as paradise, but it's actually the hell fire to Almighty Allah. So black people can commit crimes in ignorance coming from slavery now. And yes, that's sin. And God will judge us for our sins and also its iniquity, but I want to stay focused. But the crime that has the entirety of the black planet, this is a black planet. It is only the crime of slavery in the Western Hemisphere. And that is a crime where it's a crime of chattel slavery, chattel slavery. That includes murder, the murder of black people, murder of black people, from what they call Africa. Remember now, we lost 100 million black people in the transatlantic slave trade. Transatlantic slave trade. We lost 100 million black people. So it's the crime of chattel slavery. It's the crime of murder. Murder of the West Indian. And in this murder of the West Indian, it's the stealing or theft of the land, what they call North America, where they done stole the entire Western Hemisphere. They tried to steal Africa, but God then came in with the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. I just put it in that area because I would say that with the conference they had in the late 1800s and segregating Africa, with the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad in the Western Hemisphere, what the brother was saying here impacted what was going on here. And so black people, so Africa is no longer necessarily controlled like just outright. It's more of a mental control. So again, it's very simple, brothers and sisters. It's very simple. And God even makes it simpler. If you look at the American judicial system, American judicial system, if you look at the court system, it's a crime, it's a judge, you might have a jury if you want to go through all of that, or you just let the judge decide. You guilty, you not guilty. You got lawyers, they provide, evidence for the crime, and the judge decides. The judge is vetted with education and experience in dealing with the court system and dealing with the judicial system. So the judge, if he's Solomon is our judge. God is our judge for this crime. And say, okay, so that's just real simple. The Caucasian is guilty for some very serious crimes. So as black people across the planet, it's just getting in line with the decision of God, what God has decided. Like, what is the punishment for chattel slavery, the murder of black people? We just talking about the serious, we ain't dropping nothing, but we just, we just want to focus on the main 2 or 3 crimes. The chattel slavery, the murder of black people, the murder of the West Indian, and the thievery of the Western Hemisphere from the black man and black woman on the planet. So that's the crime, and that's a judgment of guilty. God has found them guilty. So if you would separate, get out the way, let the bailiffs and the sheriffs, the angels, come and handcuff these Caucasian people in the courtroom and take them to where they're waiting for execution. If you would get out that way, and let that happen, then you wouldn't get handcuffed and be found in contempt of court or whatever it is. Allah forbid you didn't, just went rampant in the courtroom for the love of your slave master. So understand that's going on, and if you could just get in line with that, and again, it's a slow process, it's by degrees. But Dr. Tutor is my educational platform. That's something solid where I have contact information, and it's something that we can actually talk about. Like you can contact me with Dr. Tutor at researchpublishingmedia at gmail.com. researchpublishingmedia at gmail.com. We have a very serious problem as black people in America, where we're just ignorant with things that we should not be ignorant on. We do not know the language. We do not know the language of math. Math is a language. Like again, when we talk about atomic physics, the concepts of atomic physics, this book right here, when we open this book, this is just language. What is the language? What is this language, right? See how thick it is? It's a language book. Instead of learning Arabic, instead of learning Spanish, instead of learning French and Latin and Hebrew, what is this language? Correct? If you was to learn this language, if someone of importance, let's pick on a certain financial situation. If I was a millionaire or a billionaire and you were in poverty, but you knew the language of atomic physics, I would find you and I would learn atomic physics to communicate. Like, you wouldn't come find me, I would come find you, and I would have to submit and learn the language of atomic physics. So we do that with math. So Dr. Tutor, we stress math, and we primarily focus on math analysis, and this is actually very good for older people. Again, it's a breath of fresh air, something new. Get your heart to pump that blood, right? Get your brain very, very active with what's going on, make you aware to understand the scripture. Math language just only prepares you better to understand what God is saying to us. So when you approach the Bible and the wickedness of how the Bible has been scripted to destroy the spirit of black Americans, to destroy the spirit of black people across the planet, across the planet. So that's what the wicked translation of the Bible. But with math analysis, conditioning your brain to know what's going on, to go from 0 to 100 miles an hour in 3.4 seconds. 3.4 seconds. To go from 0 to 100 miles an hour in 3.4 seconds. From chattel slavery. Chattel slavery to the Khalifa. Khalifa. We do that with math analysis initially. Math analysis. Khalifa is more dealing with, well, it's all God, but Khalifa is more like you're not going to be a Khalifa with math analysis, but it's just the mindset if we understand correctly. I'm going to say to go from chattel slavery to not be dumb. I'm going to say it kind of like that, right? But we are so very, I don't want to say dumb, because we are so very unintelligent, right? So I don't want to make it like, I don't want you to get personal, right? Until we understand how to deal with our emotions. So we do that with math analysis. And what I'm trying to tell you again is that in our everyday life as black, I'm specifically speaking to black people in America right now. In our everyday life and just trying to survive, we are just surviving in America. Even if we're financially successful, it don't take nothing for a devil to just get that wicked spirit and come at you and just F your day up, mess your day up. You was having a good day, right? You might have caught a cheesecake, some Oreo cookies, you got some milk, and you just watching some television. You had something good on Netflix or cable, YouTube, and then here come a devil to just mess your day up. You understand what I'm saying? So in that environment, you can really lose focus and not understand what I'm trying to tell you and what God is giving you. I'm just a vessel, brothers and sisters. I'm just a vessel giving you a message. It's math analysis. Now, listen. Stop what you're doing. If you haven't already done this, stop what you're doing and ask yourself, well, did you get the algebra book yet? The one book, the brother from India, they got that. That's a first step book for supreme wisdom. They got that free online. All you got to do is download it. Did you get that book? Did you start reading that book? Like, do you really understand what Dr. Tutor is saying to you with math analysis? Have you started taking steps to become a mathematician? You don't have to go to college and get the dot like you would want to do that, I guess, if you in that world. But are you becoming literate mathematically? A lot of time we miss it because we don't know what's going on. We blinded because we coming from a plantation. A plantation. And now it's a big city and it's bright lights and we blinded by the illusion, the vanities, shiny objects. We're very blinded and we don't know what to do. So you put some money in our pocket, some good food in our mouth, and we done forgot everything about the crimes that these devils have been found guilty for. And we just lose focus of everything. So here I am, Mr. Sharia, and I'm communicating to you, listen, brothers and sisters. You know, the book of Proverbs says that don't make haste or don't strive. Like you hear something good and we strive because it's in righteousness and we just rush into it. The book of Proverbs says don't make haste to strive, because your neighbor will come and put you to shame, right? Meaning we don't know. So don't never strive in your righteousness. Like let's look at fasting. You should fast, and that's a good point. I made a mistake one time. I was stressing fasting, and it was messing with me. That was a little ways ago, but I said that if you eat 1 meal a day and just drink water, that would be difficult because we working every day. I said that incorrectly. I meant to say if you eat 1 meal a week. And again, I'm still dealing with the affliction of chattel slavery and being impatient in my thoughts. So this is a correction process. But you might have listened to it. Because I don't want you to think eating 1 meal a day is cool now. Now, eating 1 meal a day is the minimum. Remember when you talk about, I used to call this Cartesian coordinates. But in my further study, it's actually called planar coordinates. Planar coordinates. And this is where the devil comes in with the God complex. The devil and God complex. The worship of people instead of the worship of the creator of the heaven and the earth. I don't think the Cartesians, because we black people, now it's a grafting process. And we still trying to understand, is it Yaqub? Okay, let's go to the pyramids. Is it Yaqub grafting these black people? Or is it more of a bigger picture? Is Kemet Yaqub? And it's just the grafting of these people with that knowledge astray away from Almighty Allah. So the Cartesians wouldn't say these are Cartesian coordinates. But the devil would say that about something that these black people were doing. So it's planar coordinates, what I call planar coordinates. Okay, I lost that thought, right? I sure did lose that thought. I don't even know, brothers and sisters. Okay. Okay. It was something gonna be powerful too, right? So inshallah, we might get that thought back. When you start talking about them pyramids and God and just the power of God with all of that, right? Okay, so we were talking about I have no idea what we was talking about, brothers and sisters. So let me pick back up in thought. So we can lose focus on our path and not really understand the message that is being communicated to us. To take those steps to make yourself mathematically literate, where you can begin to progress. It's your foundation. Our foundation is ignorance. So to correct that ignorance, where you become the light of the world. Okay, so again, my contact information is research publishing media at gmail.com. I will provide correct guidance for your child, for your children, for your young people. Very powerful times, brothers and sisters. The things that we have to work with for our progression, it's just, everything is real beautiful. Math analysis, math so difficult. It makes life easy. So it's just a building process, making ourselves literate where we can communicate. We're getting a very serious problem because, well, no, that's not correct. It's just God, Almighty Allah. We have a covenant with God, covenant. That covenant is Islam. Islam came with the planet. It's your culture. So when you don't accept your culture, you have to accept the consequences of not accepting your culture. Okay. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and all of his righteousness. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and all of his righteousness. All right, so what I want to do, brothers and sisters, is let me get focused. The last time we spoke, I talked for a little bit of time and I didn't really touch on no math. And I really, again, we could get into, it's all kind of things we could just speak about. But the primary focus and me speaking to you right now as far as social media, YouTube, is just math analysis. I'm working towards a doctorate in something. I want to say math analysis. I don't know, once I get, inshallah, once I get to a master level, I'm going to get a master's in math analysis or some type of mathematics. But once I get the master's, I don't know whether I'm going to continue with math or whether I might go, again, dentistry is real good. But you always have to be looking forward, and to be a dentist in Africa, what they call Africa, I don't know how that's, like, that would be actually good. I don't know how that's going to work. So that's the only thing. Like, I know being a dentist in America, you going to make that paper and you just go, it's going to be a lot of interaction because you ain't getting, you got problems with your mouth, you ain't going to see no dentist no time soon. So that's the only thing. But as of right now, you know, I think we're going to get the doctorate in math. So that's all I'm stressing, and it's just teaching math and who's really giving it to you to educate your child. You know, I'm older, and so my youth is gone. even though I have a very youthful spirit, but physically I'm just getting older. But to be listen, I'll try to tell you again. If you have a child that's under 10 years old and you have a black man named Mr. Sharia, and you have the opportunity to sit your child or children down in front of Mr. Sharia for hours during the week and let Mr. Sharia educate your child on math analysis, or math, you can just say math. You don't understand what that is. So that's the opportunity. And we just talking about Dr. Tutor. Dr. Tutor. So let's look at it, brothers and sisters. We're going to get into some math. And so we want to get back. Let me see something. Let's look at the foundation. Foundation. We just talking about foundation. Now, let's understand. Again, let me put this back up here. You got the pyramids. They say the pyramids was aligned with the stars. You got the Red Sea. And then you got a little structure right here, the Kaaba. And these stars right here, they're all in the same, well, with the Kaaba, it's all the same environment, but the Kaaba was built first, I'm assuming. And so those are higher stars, or those are stars higher up in the heavens. This is done mathematically, how they built this, black people. Let me put Kemet here. These stars right here are a little bit closer to the planet as far as what they were aligned with. That's just, that's just mathematical. That's mathematical, making it make sense. So, we talk about the mathematics. Look now, the foundation of the pyramids is a square or area. They started with an area. Now you got theory. You got theory how all of this came about. The brothers say it made sense, but I don't know how true that is, right? Because I farm. Now I'm not a big acre farm, but I had some how I seen it, but I can't think of it right now. But he said that when they started dividing the land, they had to create boundaries. So this is how all these numbers. So I don't know how that's like real rudimentary. You just talking about that's like 6,000 years ago. So I don't think we was that dumb, unless he going back millions of years. So I don't know, and I didn't forget what God has said about that. But it's area. So say you got A and B, so A equals B. I said that real fast. Let me say that again. You have A. It's just a straight line, a measure. Point A, I'm gonna say point 1 to point 2. We're going forward in history, what they call the future. We're progressing into our history. That's a heavy concept, right? We could build on that, just a certain type of masturbation and mental thought. I'm gonna see if I could just remember that when we come back to that. I want to stay with these numbers to get you to understand, for you to be a master in math, to get people to stop hustling you, right? Hustling at the highest level. Now you might not be able to interject. Like, it's one thing what we say. As black people in America, We can give judgment, but we just can't execute the judgment. Not how we want to do it. Only God can give judgment at this time and execute that judgment and fear no repercussions. God fears no consequences. No, you can't do an eye for an eye and the devil not gonna come back and further persecute you because of our iniquity. So, to get focused, you got point 1, point 2. Okay, that's what I was talking about, to stop the hustle. So, at the highest level, math analysis create a better vision for you. I guess I could say it like that. It's so many ways you can say that, what math analysis will do to your brain. But to go from point 1 to point 2, that's a certain distance. If you just look at feet, say you was going to walk this distance, or space, but that's going to be complicated. So if we do it again, to go from point 1 to point 2, that's like going from point M to point T. Now it's a straight line. It's a straight line, linear. We call a straight line linear. Line. Linear. But when you have an explosion, say you have an explosion, from an origin, the origin is some type of material. Even if it explodes from atoms, however God is doing that, say you have some atoms, and one of these atoms is a radical, meaning it has high activity or heat, and this atom ignites these atoms, and then it's an explosion. Well, if you use planar coordinates, when we talk about planar, to go from linear, you just walk in a straight line, to now, this explosion is circular, where it's going to go in this direction. As far as force is kilograms, meters per second squared. That's force. Let's understand that again. Kilograms. This is mass or weight. It's only weight when you're talking about gravity. But it's kilograms, meters. Meters is distance, how far you walking. And then time. Remember the planet rotating around the sun? So this is force. So when you have a certain mass going a certain distance over a certain period of time, that's what you call force. So you're walking linear, but with an explosion is spherical, multi-dimensional. Spherical. So you walk in a straight line. Say you have some atoms here. You have some atoms here. The atoms explode. So you have a force going the straight line. That's the x-axis. And you have a force going the y-line. But really you have forces going multi-dimensional. That's when you have, I'm going to say U, N. That's just describing dimensions. But if you just focus on the explosion, the force going in this direction, the y direction, and the force going in the x direction, you have what is called a plane. You create a plane. This is a plane. When you include what we say the z direction, when you include the z direction, then you have a sphere, 3 dimensions. You have what is called a sphere. So again, we're talking about the pyramids. We're talking about the Kaaba. The foundation The foundation of both of these structures is the square. The square is just area. Understand now, when you have a square, say this is A, B, C, D, each one of these sides is equal. A equals B equals C equals D. There's all kind of ways you can write that. Like we could do it again and say A. That's better. That's better like when you're talking about writing intensive. This is not writing intensive if you write it like this, right? Because then we don't even have to write. Like if we say if we say this is a square, we don't say it's a square. Square means that the sides are equal. So we don't say square and we just say, we draw a shape. And then we say this side is equal to A, this side is equal to B, this side is equal to C, and this side is equal to D. Well, we can't leave it like that without further explanation. So it's writing intensive. We also have to say A equals B equals C equals D if we're trying to communicate that this shape is a square. So that's writing intensive. So if each one of these sides are equal, well, you can just focus on two sides because we know that this side right here, we know that they're equal. I didn't say that good like how I wanted to say it, right? It's just so much we can build on with this. My whole point is that, again, we talking about the foundation of math. When you look at something like they got something called Pythagorean theorem, where they say that A squared is equal to B squared plus C squared. Now this is not at the basic level, is where I'm getting confused at. When you get right here, we done already passed what I wanted to talk on. Because now we start talking about trigonometry functions. And so this is further up the totem pole. And so we just talking about the foundation. Cause we talking about the pyramids. And we talking about the Kaaba. I think the Kaaba might be a little bit bigger than that, right? We talking about the pyramids. We talking about the Kaaba. So the mathematics, because this is astronomy. It's astronomy. It's math analysis. And in the Caucasian devil world, this society that we're living in right now, the mathematical foundation is this right here. But that's a ground level. Again, I believe the most honorable Elijah Muhammad says that only one book was left for the devil to rule. Only one book was left for the devil to rule, and that rule was only for 6,000 years. And that time was up in 1914. And light travels. So it's just a continuation, brothers and sisters, of your progression and understanding what's going on. Okay. So again, you have something called planar, the X direction, Y direction. I think my point I wanted to make with this right here, because when you start talking about when you start talking about planar coordinates, that's when you start talking about like explosions and like the higher level where we are right now with the fighter jets and helicopters. Right? So, but it initially started from this right here. And this right here is my point. My point I wanted to make was that Cartesian coordinates or planar coordinates originated from just land or the square, which is A and B. So A times B gives you the area, right? You want to calculate area. How much area do you have? Like if you a king, you ruling a kingdom, how much farmland do you have? Because we can't do, now remember now, and volume is A times B times C, which is volume. Volume is 3 dimensions, which is a sphere, or it can be a sphere. It can be whatever you want. You can make it a square. But our planet is not, well, that's I don't know, you can look at it right. That's detail. Right? But then when you talk about the atoms is detailed too, right? This might be, the square might be for construction. Right? I don't think, well, no, that's a good point, right? Because you're not going to have like area A squared or AB is not really subatomic. That's a good point. That's a very good point. So that's where that doctorate come in, where we start looking at that, right? We can build on that. The planet is volumetric. Is that a word? Well, it could be a word, right? I'm talking about, is that a word? Well, does that word coincide with what God is saying, is what I mean. Volumetric. So when you talk about a sphere, It's simple, brothers and sisters. We have a sun, right? You got the planet Earth. You got something called the moon rotating around the planet. All that's spherical. So that's volume. So I don't know. There's something to look at, right? Okay. So let me clear that thought. And then we're going to see if we can move on. This can go on forever, right? Okay, so let me just, I'm trying to get my thoughts correct where I can communicate effectively. So the point I wanted to make, brothers and sisters, is that when you talk about planar coordinates, everything is initially based on planar coordinates. We're talking about the subatomic. We talk about subatomic world, matter, what you can't see. So in that's probably going to be like 10 to the negative 6 meters, 10 to the negative 12 meters in that environment. So you can't see that. Now you can create the instrument to necessarily see probably 10 to the negative 6. You can mathematically calculate 10 to the negative 12. I see that. I just ain't at that level yet where I can do that. But inshallah, I'm gonna do that. You can just, I don't mean theory. I mean, you can look at like plants and interacting with plants. You could already do it with, it's real simple to do what I be doing it with on certain, okay, so let me keep that, let me stay focused. Let me see where we at so I can remember, right? Okay, when we talking about, you can talk about like DNA or really it's just manipulating atoms. Manipulate atoms. So when you do go to college, if you're talking about you're going to get a doctorate or if you're going to mess with undergraduate chemistry, they got something called NMR, nuclear magnetic resonance instrumentation. It's the NMR. They got another one too that I used to find, like, I used to get into all of that, right? It's just a manipulating atoms using speed. I don't think they use heat, but somehow they use speed, centrifugal forces and all of that. But no, brothers and sisters, what I do is that, again, I think in the book of Genesis, the first book of Moses called Genesis, in the first book of Moses called Genesis, this is what the devil tells us the book is called. God cursed the land for Adam and Eve's indiscretion. God cursed the land, and then it further picks up with Noah. Noah got his name from his family to heal the land. So it's something you can take a look at. But I say that so, like, when you go out, you say you're going to start farming, right? And one of the things I farm is tomatoes. And I pray, brothers and sisters, that even though you might not have no land, you might not even have no knowledge, but just in listening and understanding, you might have got you a couple seeds, right? You could just snatch you could just get a tomato from the store. If they ain't, I think they got detonator seeds now with some vegetables where you get the seed and they got it where they genetically got it where you can't reproduce it. Like once it grow that one time, it won't reproduce from the fruit. I think they call that detonator seed. So that's crazy, right? But that's what they're doing. But I pray, like, it's just, even if it's just a plant, start learning how to farm, just things to get your mind active. And I do want to say this, right? That's a good point too. That's gonna be a couple types of thought, right? But remember, I had brother was a tomato plant. He was a Roma. You got the Roma, what they call the Roma tomatoes. That's been called a commission tomato. what they call aroma in English. You got the Commission tomato or the Roma tomato. And then they got what they call the slicer tomatoes. Say this is the Sudanese tomato. Not the Sudanese tomato, the Nuba. Not the Nuba, the Nubia. This is the Nubia tomato. What they call in English the slicer. Now it don't look, I could have did that better, right? But so you got the Commission tomato, then you got the Nubia tomato. Brother was a Commission tomato. So when I had him in the house, it's just the environment, right? Keep me company during the cold. Then it was cold, so we didn't have no temperature jumping off. So when you watered, brother, right, the soil would stay moist. That's not real good for the roots. And then he was in like a little gallon container. So he couldn't really stretch out and get big, right? But you know, realistically, if you're talking about like farming, a season, I'm in a cold area, so come November, the tomato plants, whatever I got out there, they gonna die. Well, they ain't really deaf, that's a good, like I need to understand what that is, because they don't die. Because you'll understand that once, it be the cold weather that be killing the plants. If it's a fruit plant or a meat plant, what I call a meat plant, tomato is meat. Where then they started calling animals meat, but it's actually vegetative meat. It's meat come from vegetables, from a plant. Okay, so brother was a Roma tomato. And because of the environment of the house, he could never really bloom out. I had him from September. Brother came into existence in September. You talking about September to February. Now, when you grow tomatoes, when you grow a tomato plant, and then them fat babies start hanging off the tree, off the plant. Once this happens right here, you have a certain type of rigor mortis. Once you get all of this off of here, these branches become like stale or they wither away. But the tomato plant continues to grow at the bottom, what they call shoots. I think it's called, I'm real illiterate on this because again, I'm still kind of afraid. Even I did about 10 years now and just not messing around, but and just looking at how I'm gonna get some money from farming, feeding well, really it's more financial. But the tomato plant starts growing, it still be living. But then when November come, you talking about this is gonna be what? January, March, the end of March. We done pushed it back to April. So come November, the tomato plant still growing. Gonna give you what you want and everything. But the cold weather destroys the entire plant. But I had brother from September to February, right? I took him outside in April. Yo, brother out there huge. He got fat babies everywhere. And you gotta also understand, I had broke him off so bad, right? You know, I was a little bit stressed out. Yo, brother got blooms. He got blooms everywhere. I say that because we talk about the resurrection. And God tell us in the Quranic scripture that you can get a good understanding about our resurrecting from the grave. Now we talking about life after death, because you got a spiritual resurrection too, right? So I don't know, as we get further, as we become more knowledgeable of the Quranic scripture, we start to seeing what's going on. And so I'm still looking at that. But yo, brother is full-fledged. Like when he was in the house, you know, because it's a small confinement in a room type situation, and he where my books at, right? You know, I would break them off, right? Oh, that thing was terrible. But yo, he out there blooming. And I'm gonna tell you like this too, the watermelon, we growing watermelon. This is the first year that we actually growing watermelon. Yo, watermelons are actually very beautiful. I've seen a variety of plants, like we do the spinach. Spinach don't have necessarily a bloom where they gonna give you a flower. But spinach is that junk, brothers and sisters. Spinach is like that microwavable, you microwaving a TV dinner or something? I don't know if you would do, because the TV dinner probably tastes nasty. Yo, that spinach grow real quick, and you can, oh, that spinach is nice, right? That's going to be a good crop plant, a good crop plant financially. But the watermelon has the most beautiful flower. Oh, it's so beautiful. Like, it's actually the watermelon has a very beautiful flower. Like, I would like to have, you know, I'll be messing with the insects, right? To have an acre of watermelons, you know what type of insects? Like, you're going to have some real beautiful insects. They got a real beautiful flower. But again, I was talking about, okay, so from September to February, brother was on the ropes. Even though he was healthy, then he was Muslim, he was on the ropes as far as the purpose, the objective. We trying to eat. So when I took brother out and put him outside in April, yo, brother then snap. So he doing good, right? Okay, so So I wanted to say how that talk about the resurrection of your spirit. Why did I say all of that, right? Let me see why I said that. What was we talking about? Okay, yeah, we talking about subatomic. So when you can't see something, 10 to the negative 12 meters, we're not going out into the heavens, right, with the stars. We're looking into ourselves. Well, no, I can't say that. Well, you can on one level, right? If you want to make a parable of it. But instead of going out into the heavens, we're going into the heavens, I guess, or we're going into creation is what we're going into. Okay, yeah. So we're going into creation, 10 to the negative 12 meters. Remember, it's a meter, certain distance. And let's just ask the computer right quick. When they put some voice on this AI where you can just talk to it, yo, it's going to be off the chain, brothers and sisters. How many feet are in 1 meter? How many feet are in 1 meter? And I use feet because it's just walking. And 1 foot is your foot size. That's an approximation. 1 foot is 12 inches. It's 12 inches. Right? but that's really your foot size. So just your foot. So they say it's 3.28084, 3.28084. And it's always good to, if they give you the entire number, or if you calculate the entire number, it's always good to write the entire number out initially. That's a good practice habit. So for every meter, you're going to get 3.28084 feet. So we're talking about 10 to the negative 12 meters. Right? So, you know, you can calculate that, right? But just so you understand, you can't see that, but it exists. And we talking about atoms. So, how do you mess with that? Like, how do you mess with the atoms? We don't have the necessarily machinery. So I was talking about combining atoms, is my point. God say that he give us mastery of everything now. Combining atoms. So with the poison of the land for the devil, these Western Indians, when they was growing tomatoes before 1555, well, no, you got to go back before that. You talking about probably 1400s. During the 1400s, before the devil came from Europe, they wasn't having no problems. It's called blossom rot. That's something else we could get into to get some financial gain. I had forgot all about that, right? Because we hadn't really been dealing with it no more. Well, we're going to see how I deal with it now, right? With the upcoming season, with what's going on. I wonder what brother going to do with the blossom rot. Blossom rot is when your soil, it doesn't have enough calcium. And so, it's real horrible, brothers. I had, you're going to lose, out of a batch of 10 tomatoes, you're going to lose about 6 or 7. That's a serious problem. Like, blossom rot is a very serious problem. So they use chemicals. It's actually real bad. Again, you know, Mr. Walmart is providing for us. And so, you know, until we provide for ourselves, but it's actually real bad. So they flood these joints with chemicals. It's the only way you get, look, what I'm trying to tell you, brothers and sisters. If you go into the ground, you're talking about you're going to feed not you and your family, but you're going to feed your people. And you talking about this all the land and you're going to grow, no. You're going to lose, out of 10 tomatoes, you're going to lose 6 tomatoes. That means you done lost like 60% of your land. So what I started doing was, what I noticed was that the red pepper, we still messing with red pepper, right? It's a discipline. If you can't put down the sugar, not the sugar, the salt, the fried foods, like we love, well, we don't really mess with, we love fried chicken. We just ain't ate it in a while. I don't necessarily mess with animal flesh no more. I just ain't had the taste for it. I lost the taste for it coming off the this last fast of Ramadan. Actually, the fast of the month of December, and then Ramadan came. The fast of the month of Ramadan, they kind of came back to back. So I didn't mess with no, and I didn't mess with no meat. So I didn't kind of like just lost the taste for it. But if you have not lost the taste for it, and it's good now, that fried chicken, you carry that chicken and put some cheese on it, whoo. So if you still eating them things and you like them things, right, and you overweight, get you some red peppers and just eat the red peppers like now and laters, right? You gotta, you know, don't just die. Take care of your health. But the red pepper didn't have no blossom rot. Like the red pepper came out and they were straight. So I seen that, right? With the red pepper, and then I seen the garlic. The garlic was straight. Ain't had no problems with no disease or nothing. Now I don't know whether on some levels, if we talking about atoms again, Remember, atoms are just building blocks. And they combine a certain way to form a molecule. And these molecules form a compound. And as we get bigger and bigger into construction, that's when you start to see things. Like water is a compound. You can see water, but you don't see the hydrogen. And you don't see the oxygen. So you talking about calcium, right? That's an atom. So the soil, you see the soil. Soil, I believe, is made of carbon or silicon, either or. I don't specifically know. But my whole point is that at the most basic level, well, the calcium is an atom, right? So yeah, let me look at that, right? That's powerful. So we talking about so now we talking about heat. So I might have been approaching it incorrectly. Even though the red pepper is heat on a certain level, yeah, that's powerful. Okay, but the whole point is, the soil didn't have what they say calcium. That's what the devil is telling us. So if I didn't have no blossom rot with the red pepper, and I didn't have no blossom rot with the garlic, what I was thinking was that I would just mix in tomato seeds with these two seeds. Well, garlic is not a seed, but I was busting it down like the sheath or the covering of the garlic, the clove, the pieces of the clove. So I would mix the tomato seed in with the red pepper, and I would just let that sit during the winter for the next growing season. So on that level right there, we're messing with atoms, and we're just doing reconstruction. Atoms, and we talking about atomic reconstruction. So that's what all that is. And that's when you start talking about like when you're talking about like cloning. Like cabbage hasn't been cloned, but broccoli has been cloned from the cabbage. So I believe you can do all that with seeds and grafting. And so all that's actually real good. Like that's when you get like I say, brothers and sisters, slavery was real good. You talking about 1700s, 1800s? Initially, all the murder and the perversity, the faggotism. That's the first 100, 200 years to get that slavery machine going, chattel slavery going, and then going into the 1700s, where the finances, they done hoarded so much finance, where they create just a little bit of space, brothers and sisters, all that filth for just a little bit of space. So now you talking about the 1800s, you got Kraft and Heinz with the ketchup and the sauces and the Oreo cookies. And so, okay. So okay. So we were talking about planar coordinates. Planar coordinates. You got an X direction. You got the Y direction. That creates a plane. It could be multi-dimensional. But we initially start with the planar. And remember, planar circle is a circle. It's a circle. That's planar. X direction. Y direction. Then you have a sphere. The X direction, Y direction. Then you have the Z direction. And the planar coordinates We just use planar coordinates to see what the atoms are doing in space. Manipulation, coordinates, initially. Correct? Okay. So, let's get back to the foundation. Now, we're talking about math analysis. Let me get the math analysis book, brothers and sisters. I really want to thank God so much, brothers and sisters, for this. This is just so powerful. This is the book we're going to use. I've learned to have a better appreciation for this book. I didn't really like it at first. We had the other book when I actually took a math, but this was Calculus 4. This book was, when they say Calculus 4 is just an introduction to math analysis, and then you have an actual class that says real analysis, and that was a separate book. But I kind of like this book. Now this brother, I think, well, Mr. Wade, but I do mess with Pearson. They produce some good books. And so this is the book we're using, Math Analysis. And I just really, you know, this thing right here is just phenomenal. It really is phenomenal. So let's understand what we're working with. What are our tools? Well, I might can say it like that. 1, 2. Oh, I hate that light messing up, right? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's it, brothers and sisters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This is the foundation. Then we have 0. 0 is our continuity. I think I pronounced that correctly. We're going to understand what continuity is further down the line. We're not going to introduce it right now, but just so we understand, this is all it is. Now, we're talking about a system. Again, we have to think outside of, we put ourselves in a box. Again, the brother Malcolm say think outside the box. But when we focus, we put ourselves in a box. Because we're working with tools in the box. But we also have to think outside the box. But so I say that because this is not all it is. It's not even math. It's not even math analysis. This is not the language. But God uses this. I think this would be more. I think this might be the most articulate language to describe. Listen now, we're talking about the creation of the heaven and the earth. That's what we're talking about. Creation of the heaven and the earth. God created the heaven and the earth, right? God is communicating to us how to create the heaven and the earth, if that's possible for the human being to do that. What language are we going to use to articulate to each other how to do that? So one of the languages, and the language I choose is math analysis and numbers. So all this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Then God gives us 0 for continuity. Because say you have a tree that grows. Well, by the time this tree is right here, brothers and sisters, You at 9. Say this was 1, this was 2. You never was no 0 because you had a seed. Right? This is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is 9. Well, you done ran out of numbers. But your tree ain't stopped growing. So what's this right here? If this tree right here is 9, then what's the number of this tree? So that's introduce 0 for continuous. Okay. So the foundation is, but they say 1, they say 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so they say 0 has no value, but then they say 10. So that's kind of complicated, right? I only say that because look now, when you go to the, they have one of our artifacts. It was a ruler. It was a metric ruler. It was a ruler that measured. The ruler even had on one of the measurements, subatomic measurements, which is just radiation. And we're gonna talk about radiation. Well, yeah, it could be radiation. I was thinking about musical notes too, right? Musical notes have the same periodic, well, it's periodicity. Periodicity is what it really is. So that's a whole separate type of situation. Periodicity is trigonometric functions, which goes back to planar coordinates, which goes to triangles. You start talking about triangles. Remember now it's a square. Then you talking about the angle and the sides. And so that's what that is when you talk about trigonometry. But if we're going to look at the foundation first, because I want you to understand it's math, analysis. To master this, brothers and sisters, people do not know. I'm talking about collectively. Wherever the black man or black woman go across the planet, the only thing they gonna tell you is that we'll kill you. That's it. Nah, dumb that is. Caucasians, the devil say, well, look, if you kill them, then you can't chain them up and make them a slave for 400 years and get phenomenal amount. Like, why would you want to do that? Then that's the devil telling you that. Then God say, thou shalt not kill. But we say that because they slaughtering us in this country. But we don't say that we gonna kill our enemy. But then the black man can present, the black man or black woman can present themselves as an enemy. That has a dynamic to it, but really, brother, we just a slave catcher for the slave master. And we talking about we'll kill as a black man. When I say I'm gonna kill you, I'm talking about I'm gonna kill my brother is what I'm saying for the Caucasian. That's really what it is. Now well, you know, thou shalt not kill, but within our black history culture, it's a black fist, and we talking about the removal of the devil from the planet. So I've never seen it I've never articulated it like that. But that's what they say, brothers and sisters. They talking about they killing you as a black man because they hate black people. But he a black man. Or a black woman. But that's it. Well, we go to China, that's all we say, we'll kill you. We go to Africa, we say we'll kill you. But they killing us. But what we say we gonna do compared to what they doing. No, get that out your mind. Don't even math analysis. To master math, it doesn't have to be your life, is what we have to understand. But you have to learn this first. You have to learn this first, and this is what I want to say, right? This is what I want to say. We were talking about foundation. What I want to say is this. When I meet, I don't really put this out here. This was like a family jewel, right? This was like a family jewel. But so we're progressing. When you come out in society and you just look at us as black people in general, but just black people specifically, what I want to say, if I meet a young person, I'm speaking like more hypothetical. I don't know if I've ever told a black person this outside of my family. This jewel, what God showed me. I want you to understand, brothers and sisters, that toilet paper does not work. Now you have to be in some poverty-like situations environmentally, like how you living, to understand this. But toilet paper does not work. Like when you go and sit on the toilet and you wipe your butt with toilet paper and then you pull your pants up, male or female, man or woman, man or woman. You ever seen like somebody that, even if they got a haircut, but if they ain't got no haircut, I'm not saying they look rough, they just look like, even if they not dingy, they done took a shower and everything, but I ain't gonna say a shower, but they clean, they got on clean clothes, but they just done took that dump. Now they done wipe their butt with the toilet paper, they put their clothes back on. You ever notice how they hair, like kind of like frizzy, it stand up? Cause they feel they got doo-doo on their butt. That's what I mean when I say you got doo-doo on your butt. So what I'm saying is this. This is what you first have to understand. As black people in America, let's just stop the ignorance on a certain level, because I still do ignorant things too, right? And I'm not perfect, but God showed me this. When you sit on the toilet and you wipe your butt with toilet paper and you say your butt clean and you put your clothes back on and then you go out in society, no, you still got doo-doo in your butt. I'm not even gonna write that. But you got doo-doo in your butt. Like, and say you with a woman, this is how I seen it. If you with a woman and y'all sitting somewhere, you might catch a whiff, like, damn, I smell some doo-doo. That's the doo-doo in your butt. Cause you still got doo-doo in your butt. I don't know if we know that. So actually, when you sit on the toilet, after you sit on the toilet, take a shower, always do that. Now, when you're in a restaurant, you can't do that. So that's where toilet paper is real good. Like, toilet paper is real good for like restaurants or like business environments. I only buy toilet paper to wipe my toilet seat. Like, I don't buy toilet paper to wipe my butt. I buy toilet paper to wipe the toilet seat before I sit on it. And then every time I take a dump on the toilet, I just get in the shower. But we don't have shower capabilities. So I wipe my butt, I wipe my behind with some water and a rag. Like, I clean my butthole. And if I do go to a restaurant, say I've been fasting, and then I go to the restaurant after a fast, and then I got a doo-doo in the restaurant, Or if I eat some food the night before and I got to get up early and it just, the spirit come where I got to sit on the toilet. Well, what I do, brothers, is we be impatient. We see when you wipe your butt and you just put your clothes, you're just impatient. So what I do, brothers and sisters, I just get naked in the stalls. If I can't drop my pants, if it's piss on the floor and all of that, we talking about all of that now. I just get naked in the stalls with my sneakers on and my socks. And I take toilet paper and I dip it in the toilet water after I done flushed the toilet. I dip the toilet paper in the water and I clean my butthole and get the doo-doo out. And I do that until I don't see no more doo-doo on the toilet paper. And then I go on about my business. So my butthole be clean. Because you don't never want to run up on no black woman and she smelling doo-doo, but she don't know where, but she got doo-doo on her butt, is what I'm saying. So we talk about the savagery of Caucasian civilization. There's so many levels with that, brothers and sisters. Caucasian people ain't told you a lot of things. Caucasian people have not told us a lot of things. So what if the Caucasian wiping his ass, wiping his behind? He taking shot every time he doo-doo. Remember now, they come from a cave. You don't come from no cave. You had that knowledge. You just got hit with 400 years of slavery. So now you don't know. We was raised up as little children to follow the ways of the devil. They ain't never taught you that. They don't teach little children that. Preschool, kindergarten, they don't have a certain time period. Because your parents supposed to teach you that. It's probably what they're going to try to tell you. That's the argument. But your parents, why ain't your parents supposed to teach you the ABCs? Well, actually, your parents are supposed to teach you the ABCs. And you learning the ABCs in preschool or kindergarten is just a reinforcing of what your parents done already taught you. But they ain't never reinforced, well, listen, you know, toilet paper don't work. Toilet paper just is some type of pacifier to make you think your butt clean. Toilet paper only good for wiping the toilet seat. It's cheaper than napkins or Kleenex, right? So, whenever you sit on the toilet, especially these black women like to eat, you know, you eat something good, you ate the correct food, where your digestive system, your gut, where it come out nice and easy, you took that good dump. But you wiped your butt and you put your clothes, you put your dress back on. You pulled your pantyhose up, you put that nice dress on, and you went back outside. Lord forbid you sat on the couch next to your husband. He just finished dumping. But both of y'all got doo-doo on your butt. Then you go outside. Lord forbid you jumping in a Mercedes. You got a pocket full of money. But you got doo-doo on your butt. And this is us as human beings. Human beings. And then we so savage, animalistic, that we don't even care. We hear that and we'll still wipe our butt and put our clothes right back on. But understand, brothers and sisters, when you sit on the toilet, toilet paper does not work. Toilet paper, it only works for cleaning the top of the toilet seat, for when you sit down on the toilet seat. So when you, not saying there's nothing wrong with eating and doo-dooing, taking that dump, nothing wrong with that. But after you do that, don't put your clothes on, just go right to the shower and clean your butt. Then put your clothes on. Whole separate type of fresh air. It's real healthy. Change up your whole mindset. Then you'll start to see what's really going on. A lot of times, we just got doo-doo in our butt. Okay. So that's just a side note, because we talking about foundation. Like, there's no way in the world, again, you talking about the book of Revelation, black man, skin like jasper, sitting on the throne. There's no way you're going to stand in front of him after just getting off the toilet with doo-doo in your butt, and he not going to judge against you. It's just not happening, brothers and sisters. So let's understand that. That's just a side note. Okay, so let's look at something now. Math analysis. Okay, that's where I was. Before I get into that, right? I start with the foundation because now this is math analysis, but this is very basic. We got something called, okay, let's look again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, and I've seen 0. How 0? They got 0 here because 0 go to negative numbers, to continuity again. That's real good. We thank you, Almighty Allah. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Then we use 0 here to go to 10. That's continuity. And then we go -1. So how did they get the concept for it to be a -1? That might be dealing with numbers as far as finance. I had to look at that. We're not really talking about finance. We're talking about more like the creation of the universe type phenomenon. It's only a phenomenon if we can't explain it with math. For my definition, when I use the word phenomenon, when we say something is phenomenal, I mean when we mean it scientifically, when we're consciously saying that that's phenomenal, we can't describe it with the language of math. Is what I mean. So they go from 1 to -1. So how they get negative numbers? Like, why would they come up with that concept? So this is all it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Foundation. We want to look at the space. It's a space between 1 and 2. It's a space between 2 and 3, and such and such and such, and that space is infinity. So we want to understand that. So let's first talk about, it's called the trichotomy. Trichotomy principle. This is a tool. This is a, so you have like a hammer, you have a wrench, you have a chainsaw, you have a screwdriver. So in that environment of tools, certain situations to correct or construct a situation. So this is a tool of understanding to help you understand what we're talking about, variables. Variables, unknown. If you can prove it with an unknown, say X, Y, Z, A, B, C, A can equal whatever you want it to equal to. I use the Hamza, the Arabic Hamza symbol, or the Arabic Hamza caricature. And then I put a 1 here. This is just a habit I use to learn how to deal with sequences. And we got something called a sub-sequence. And I just like this because this is dealing with like subatomic, what you can't see. Always understand it's behind the veil or around the corner or someone behind your back, what you can't see. That's how the devil attacks you. Always understand the devil comes from behind, unless he come in full force from in front of you. But it's variables. Variables represent the unknown when we talk about numbers. Let's understand now. Say you have a number line. Linear, straight line, 0. We identify the number line with initially 0 because you can go in the negative direction, even though we don't go in the negative direction sometimes. But it's a straight line, so you got 1, 2. Well, these are finite points. 1 is equal to 1. It's just one apple. It's just 2 tomatoes. Two tomatoes, 1 apple. That's a finite number. That's hold on 1 second, brothers and sisters. Okay. It's just 1 apple. It's just 2 tomatoes. Finite. Or discrete. It's so many ways we can say that, but something that's definite. Compared to a variable, well, we don't know what that number is. When we talk about numbers, again now we talk about numbers, then we talk about real numbers, but we don't want to get that confused because that's going to be a certain type of explanation. So we're just trying to keep it simple at first, and it's a building up process. So instead of saying 1 apple, well, how many apples? Well, 8 apples. Let's look at that, right? Chattel slavery, up from slavery, up from slavery. So you have a question, right? You got to pass this test. You pass this test, you're going to get this money. So we got to pass, that's the stress. Because we don't pass this test, we ain't going to get this money. But it's already rigged against you. So don't never take the test. Or learn how to prepare to master the test. Don't just pass the test, master that test. How do we master? Well, first of all, you have to understand that toilet paper doesn't work. It only works for wiping the toilet seat. If after you sit on the toilet and take a doo-doo, if you do not get up and get in the shower and wipe your butt with the water, clean your butt with the shower water or with some type of water, then when you put your clothes back on and you go wherever you're going to go, Allah forbid you just going lazy around in the house, you still got doo-doo on your butt. You doing multi-billion, $1 million deals with doo-doo on your butt. That's up from slavery. If you do not read the book ahead of the class, then you hustling backwards. Or you got doo-doo on your butt. This is another part of the game that they don't ever tell us as black people, because we coming up from slavery. It take God. God is telling us this. Ain't nobody told you, listen, brothers and sisters. Say you in 1st grade. Now, as a child in 1st grade, it's your parents' fault. They supposed to protect you from the educational environment, the abuse of the educational environment. So say you got a child, you got a son in first grade. He about to go to second grade. Well, in the spring, say March, April, have you introduced yourself? Have you found out who his second grade teachers are? Have you approached them? Found out who they are? Like, have you contacted the school? Can I speak to the principal? Introduce yourself to the principal. My son is such and such and such and such. I would like permission to come on your campus, your grounds, to meet my son's second grade teachers so I can get some information on what they post. So you got to first do that. You can't just show up at the school now. It's a whole totally separate environment. But have you found out who your son's second grade teachers are? And then have you contacted them teachers and asked those teachers, listen, I want my son to be prepared. What books are you going to be using to instruct your class? Have you done that a year in advance? So during the summer, instead of your child being out running and playing 10 and 15 hours, which is good, that's not bad. Need that exercise, that fresh air. But give him 2 hours of that book that he gonna be studying, that's coming up in the fall. Like, are you doing that? As a young person in high school, listen what I'm saying, brothers and sisters, the game is against us because we're coming from, they do not love us. It's not, okay, it's not that I said that incorrectly. We have to understand, brothers and sisters, that it's against us initially. What they say, it's a dog eat dog world. That's initially just everybody. Caucasian people hate Caucasian. We talking about the devil. If we was amongst our own people, black people, I'm sure in China they tell you it's understood because it's a part of their culture. No, you got to read the book before you take the class. I guarantee, brothers and sisters, unless you one of the 1% black people, we got them out here, the Du Bois type black people. Now, some of them be weird, right? They got straight A's and all of that. They not, no. But realistically, brothers and sisters, what we do, we walk up in that class the first time we didn't ever see anything about, and that's not nothing wrong with that, because they there to teach you. But that's not the hustle. See, it's the mindset. If I'm in the classroom, and we ain't gonna talk about college. If I'm a professor, I already know that. And I'm not about to teach you that because it's a secret society. But those people, well, I'm not gonna say those people, but that's just not what time it is, brother. Who actually in front of you telling you? Are they Muslim? Do they believe in God? Even though you don't bring necessarily religion into that environment? No, you don't know who's standing in front of you, teaching you about what you supposed to learn for your... No, brothers and sisters, you walking up in that classroom, that's the first time, and that, again, that's correct, because they supposed to teach you, but that's not what it is. The public school system, again, public schools originate from Kemet. Even though these Caucasian people come from a cave, it's just a continuation of the intelligence rulership from Kemet. And always understand we got the religious center here. But it's right here, it's real sad, brother, how I see it now, right? So, no, it's just to destroy us as black people. Initially, it's capitalistic. I have and you don't have, but then at the root, it's to destroy black people, not black Americans, black people. But then at the root of that is Judah or black America. Black America is at the root of black people of the planet. And the root, well, the root, I don't know, right? The root is destroyed. So it's just one big hustle. It's just one big hustle. Then the people don't listen. They're not going to hear. Then only those who hear will hear. That's a couple of people. So, you know, we're looking at some horrible times as a nation. I say that because, no, it's understood that your child is already supposed to know, like that's understood. And then the higher up you get, say high school, it's understood that you already supposed to know. We specifically talking about math. Then we talking about math analysis. So then we come to college, right? It's really more or less for college students also. So again, look now. When you see these variety of black people, when you get to college and you start seeing like the spectrum of black people across the planet, we coming from China, India, Africa, and they sit in the class with you and we assume they so intelligent because they just know what's going on. No, they done already read the book, because it's already understood that you don't go into that classroom without having read and studied that book first. And that's the game with mastery of education as far as the educational school system. Like, that's the hustle. And not only is that the hustle, it's so easy. We just brothers and sisters, chattel slavery. And what's depressing my soul is that when we get boxed down, like we get beat, like we like water. And it's just a flow of revelation thought. And so that water flow to chattel slavery was to kill us. So God just reaffirming what time it is. No. Even when you see like a Robert Kennedy come to mind, well, we ain't even gonna say him no more. But I'm saying, like, even when you see like him, how you think he gonna give you a chance? No, he killing you. He killing you with not now. He killing people. Like, he killing the Caucasian, but he killing you specifically because you black. So I don't know what we're gonna do, cause you know we ain't no unity. We can say unity all we want, but it's not. You know, right? And speaking about Robert Kennedy, that's a good example. Wasn't he out here making movies about how not to mess with the vaccine? Now, I don't know how true this is. Let me see, that's hearsay. I don't want to slander. I don't know how true that is. Right? But they saying now that, I think he even, well, it might be true, right? Because if he working with Trump, you know, Trump don't, well, I ain't going to say Trump don't care. President Trump don't care. But, so, okay. Okay. So let's understand. It's a lot of money on the planet. Again, it's money everywhere. It's just money everywhere. What has happened is that we are boxed into a death culture. Ain't no money in death unless you mass producing it. And as black people, we not mass producing nothing. And then that's great. That's sin, gross sin. But we're in a dead culture where there's no finance. Again, they call it finance currency. Right? Currency is electricity. So if we dead and we ain't got no electricity. But It's billions of dollars, trillions of dollars in finance. And so how do you initially, in that world, that IMF world, International Monetary Fund, I think that's what it stands for. That's like a bank. In this world, when we're giving usury loans, you need that education, that certification, that license. You need that stamp, or you need that recommendation for that computer. The computer don't, yeah, they're going to look at how you present yourself. You talking about in that world. How you present yourself when you meet them. But initially, before the racism and all of that, just your application, well, your joint say doctorate in math. Well, you in. How much money you want? Now, I can't give you my, why am I can give you my business if I got millions of businesses on that type of level? So how do you get to that point? Now, it's not instant. That's that deaf culture again. It's by degrees, years. But if you start from 5 and 6 years old, you got years. You still got years, even if you're 50 or 60. You still got years. We just talking about them 20s, them 30s, and them 40s with your wife. Well, I ain't gonna say with your wife, but just with your life, that fresh air. So to get your doctorate in math, to be something phenomenal, to be a Moses on the planet. So that's the second point I just wanted to make. Always read the book. You should go to school, how I see it. Well, again, I only say that because universities are like the gateway to billions of dollars in that devil world. Now you could get out here, you could just read the book. The book costs $6. Read that book, study that book. And then you got the application, it's called application. Like, this is what I'm trying to tell you. This is what I'm trying to tell you. Say you need some money. I remember I was telling you one time I needed some money. I was older. I needed some money real quick, real fast. So I was started boxing. I said I could just win the heavyweight champion of the championship belt and get that money. I seen big shout out to the brother Bernard Hopkins. I pray the brother doing good, but I think Bernard Hopkins, he started out coming from prison. He wasn't even a boxer or nothing, I believe. And once he got out of prison, he was like, I'm just gonna start boxing. So he was older. And Bernard Hopkins won the heavyweight championship. And so he got so I seen it from him. Okay, so, but with math analysis, you take the steps to position yourself. Just read the book. You say, well, look, if you believe in God, you doing what God say, you recognize your covenant with God. They got something called HIV. If you came out with a cure for HIV, not a treatment, but a cure, just take this pill, these aspirin, drink this tea, and you ain't got it no more. As far as HIV, then how much money do you think they'll pay you for that? Now you don't let nobody steal it. They'll steal it now. So these is things like because they remember late 1800s, we talking about the devil. Everybody listening, they video recording, all kind. It's just so much damn wickedness, brothers and sisters. But God will pardon that. God will part that Red Sea and drown that devil. But you come out with a cure if you come out with a cure for HIV from math analysis, how much money you gonna make from that? You have to use your brain. That's the only thing with that, right? But God conditioned your brain with math analysis. Or if you want to go the route of the devil, how many problems, not that you would want to go that route, right? But they got that money from slavery, brother. That's what they hustling. They hustling the money that we created for them from chattel slavery. It's just the mindset, well, why don't you get that money back? Chattel slavery. But you got to deal with them as a customer. And I seen something crazy, right? Like, look, right? Look at this, right? How, I don't know if we're going to really understand this. I don't know, sometimes I be feeling things. I don't be in my feelings, but sometimes things just hit me a certain type of way because it's revelation. But how is America, listen what America's saying, right? We supposed to be, everybody making money across the world. That's why I know, like I go back to this chattel slavery. This shit is just sad, brothers and sisters. This is a devil. And I keep saying it's sad because it's not going to be no black unity. How is it going to be black unity? We got a covenant with God. If we not having if we don't have no unity with our covenant with God, then where is our unity? So, and we don't, ain't nobody following that covenant. Only a couple people. But that's what God tell us. But let's look at it like this, right? If this is supposed to be a free world, but America's, listen what America telling China now. These people just crazy, brothers and sisters. America then told China that they not gonna sell them some type of microchip for artificial intelligence. It's some type of computer component called a microchip that helps your computer conduct itself in artificial intelligence. So look at the race, look at the wickedness now. Look at the discrimination, how bad they hate black people. They said that they're not going to sell these people need this microchip to live on the planet. It's the foundation of it. It's the correct understanding of it. America said that they're not going to sell the microchips that are made in this country to China. But they're going to sell it to everybody else, though. They ain't selling it to Russia, I'm assuming. Possibly. They selling it to Europe. And then the brother that make the microchips, he Chinese. You know how, that's why I'm saying, like, you see how God doing him? And he got to stand up with doo-doo in his butt. Look at his hair. I don't know him, but you know what I'm saying? Like, do he know that toilet paper don't work? Like, do he know that? Toilet paper. Does not work. Does not work. It's only good for wiping the toilet seat for when you about to take a doo-doo. Take a dump. Like, when you look at his hair, see how it's kind of frizzy? Even though it's combed, he got on the $20,000 leather jacket, but his hair kind of frizzy, even though it's combed. Like, do he know he got, like, if he might not know, he might know. I don't know. But look at how God doing him. That's $1 trillion company. He Chinese. But they tell him that he can't sell his product to his own people. I couldn't really explain that correctly, right? I lost the spirit on that, but I feel that. So it's just, that's crazy. That's like me saying that I'm not gonna sell you water. You need water to live. Ain't no Chinese person. China is not even threatening has had no aggression. Look at the history of the Caucasian people in China. Why has China had to come back? Well, they had to come back from the drugs that the Caucasian people put in the country. If they would have never put that dope in their country, China would be gone now. That's just crazy. That's crazy. Okay. Okay. So just understand, just so we understand. So when you approach education, unless you're giving it to yourself, understand again now, it's just purpose. What is your purpose? Well, my purpose is to teach these young people math. And really it's God. I use math analysis because it helps me articulate better what God want me to tell you, what you need to be doing. So I just use the language of math to construct my thoughts where I can communicate better when I'm like out on the streets. Even though the most honorable Elijah Muhammad said we should do it in the house, as far as like congregation, I like to just meet people on the street and preach on that corner. Like I like that with that heat. It's just something about that heat, right? So that's my purpose with the math analysis. Now, you know, if I catch some time, I catch the spirit and I do come out with something like a cure for HIV. I was looking at the microchip. That's actually complicated. Now, it's not complicated to understand, but the process, it's just a lot with making a computer. Now, I haven't fallen back and we still right there, but I don't know if that's going to be, again, realistic. But what's more realistic is for me to educate some young people and God raise up in them that spirit to create that computer that's black owned. Production. Again, we just talking about production. We've been looking for that wholesale. Initially, we wasn't even looking for no wholesale price. We was hustling secondhand. But then it was wholesale, now it's production. It has to be production. You have to produce it. Right? We too far gone. Like we have too many soldiers, financial soldiers in that American business world where we should suffer. I don't mean like suffer where you homeless. Even some people take it to that extreme and then become successful. But you should suffer. Suffer the Starbucks and the Apple computer or the Apple phone or the Air Jordans. Like suffer them things and focus on production. How to manufacture. That's just learning. So that's my objective with math analysis, just to teach young people how to master education. But you can approach anything with math analysis, but you have to take the steps to learn it. Okay. So again, we're talking about variables. Variables represent an unknown compared to numbers 1, 2, 3, 1 car, 2 chairs, 3 computers. So again now, I think we were talking about like when they give you a test, what they really asking you. So I asked you how many computers? How many computers? We were talking about up from slavery. How many computers? Right? Then they just leave it blank. Well, we're intelligent now. Now we don't know. We still can get hustled. Remember now, God say now, don't be hasty. Don't strive in your righteousness. Right? So they ask you how many computers. So initially you don't know what the hell, like that don't even make no sense. When you say no, A computers. That's how many computers, devil. A computers. Nah, don't do that. I don't even know if you would even, like, you ain't messing with no devil with that. But just so we understand, if the question is how many computers, and they don't give you nothing else with it, like if you only see 3 tables and each table can hold one computer. So you know that's three computers? No, if there's just how many computers? Well, it's 8 computers. That's how many computers. It's 8 computers. A is an unknown. We don't know how many computers, but we know the answer. The answer is that if you asking me how many computers we gonna use for something I don't have no knowledge about, then we know within your question, that's English, we know within your questions that we need a certain amount of computers. We just don't know how many computers. So we represent A or a variable. It could be B, it could be Z, it could be another character in another language. But it's a variable, represents an unknown. So let's understand that initially. So it's an unknown. We don't know what it is. So really you don't know. We don't really know who God is. But there is a God. We don't even know that. But we know we're alive. We breathe in air. Right? So let's look at that, right? We don't even know who God is. Not really. All we know is that we alive, breathing air. And when you take it there, that's just chattel slavery. Yo, you know what they done to us as black people in this country? For us to tell about what we believe in our gun and that we about to die if we don't have no belief in God. You know what type of life we have to live? Yo, we got our brother and our sister in Africa. They sold us into slavery. Our brother and our sister in Africa sold us into slavery. Africa. The brother he asked a good ass question, right? Not to blow up the spot, but it just hit me real hard, right? Now that the spirit then came. I remember one time the most honorable Elijah Muhammad said that Prophet Muhammad, we thank Almighty Allah for that brother, for you sending us that brother. The most honorable Elijah Muhammad said that if Prophet Muhammad was on the planet during chattel slavery of black people in America, black people in America, black America, he would have came and got us. Like he would have put them horses on them ships and he would have came and got us. Now that's what the brother say, right? So the brother was speaking and he was talking about just our abuse in this country and the undocumented history of our resilience as black people trying to get free from this wicked devil. And he just posed the question, right? He was like, while we were slaves, how come our brother and our sister from Africa didn't never come and get us? So initially, in ignorance, we say, well, they ain't had the resources. No, that's not correct. We now understand, brother, that Africa, even though Africa has been greatly destroyed from Caucasian people, the devil, from this transatlantic slave trade and the cutting up of that country. Yeah, their resources have been greatly depleted. But Africa is not poor, brothers and sisters. And they superior in intelligence. It's where we come from. But the brother I started listening, right? And then I already had some knowledge, right? We already know that they sold us into slavery. That's how you had some of the kings and queens and royalty as slaves in America. Because they was doing business with John Hawkins and Willie Lynch. But they said, the brother was like, well, how come they ain't never come get us? Well, they ain't never come get us because they were the ones that sold us into slavery. So what I'm saying is that, look, that shit is sad. That's terrible. Cause look, right, I mess with some people in Africa, right? As far as like social media, and we got the what is it, African? We got the AAU. No, we have the African Union. And the African Union is just a collection of African leaders. This is a generalization. It's like the UN for Caucasian people. So that's actually very good for us. We also have ECOWAS. And being so far from that area, I'm not really onto it, but I'm trying to get to a point where I'm just going to go back home and just whatever it is. But from the African Union, they have an educational section. So I mess with them a little bit, but I've been trying to get my foundation correct first, where I can approach that situation as a doctor of education. So they had the sister up there, right? It was something good too, right? Because, you know, I got my sister, right? And when you talking about the Black Business School and Dr. Watkins, he talk about trauma. And you know, not to speak on his wife, but you know, when you talk about trauma, it's just a psychological development of Black America. The psychological development of Black America, we really just, we mentally crazy. We got mental problems. Really, we do. All of us. Now, some of us are mentally healthy, and then some of us are more mentally healthy than others. But realistically, across the board, whatever Black man or Black woman you're looking at, just in everyday society, no, we have some type of mental illness is what it is. It's a mental illness. Like we really do, even though we healthy, sports. Not all of us now, some of us, but even we still do have some type of trauma. So, that's why a therapist is actually very good. Like I had a real good time one time talking to a therapist, and it was actually real good because just to talk to someone. Actually, your wife should be your therapist. Now she's not gonna have that. Well, that's still a Caucasian training, right? But I think as a wife, like that position, like to talk now, I don't know. You can look at a certain time. I don't know, right? You can look at that. But you know, when your therapist eating pork and she was overweight, so it didn't work. And then really what it was what I seen with that. You know, therapists be having problems, so they look at you and they like. To come out and say you got a mental illness, you know we supposed to be hardcore, right? Across the board. So that's a certain type of weakness, and the devil prey on weakness. So we ain't never really telling nobody, well, we got a mental problem. So that's one level, right? So you got to get over that and just understand that. But really, I say that because, so the psychiatrist or the psychologist, psychologist, they not gonna let you know that they got a mental illness. Right? Because that's a certain type of weakness. But what they do is they listen to your problems and then they interject or project their problems onto you to help them solve their problems. So I was sitting up in there, I was like, damn, she talking about herself. She was overweight. She was nice though, you know what I'm saying? But it just, okay, so my whole point is this. So we got the AU in Africa. They got an educational section that's pretty good, where all the actually it's actually real good because we talking about long term. And like you talking about the next 100 years, when the devil dissipate, all these things are gonna be good. These are gonna be solid foundations, like pillars on the planet. We talking about on the planet. That's governing what's going on. Hey, listen, you get confused and sidetracked. Now, India is on point, but India not at home, brother. and sister. They in India. They not in the garden, right? So you got, but it's going to be Africa, and then people going to be contributing. But this one section of the AU was an educational section. I think it's AAU, African Association University, something like that. But anyway, they had something, right, where they were talking about, oh, it was something real good, talking about mental, it wasn't mental, it was mental illness. No, it was compulsion, disorder, compulsion, disorder, something like that. Like, I used to have it real bad when I was dealing with a certain type of trauma, right? But, as a young child, when I would leave, I still have this now, like with my keys and my wallet and my zip drive and cutting all the appliances off. But when I was younger, as a child, my daddy had to work. So I pretty much had to just, I ain't gonna say how I want to say that, right? Because I don't want to make it seem like I was distraught. It was nothing like that. But I'm talking about, I had the responsibility of the house. Like, I had the house to myself while my daddy was at work. So if I had to leave the house, I never forget, right? It always used to be the stove. Where I leave the house and I'd be like, damn, I cut the stove off. So I go back and you ain't trying to get into it with your father, right? So I go back in the house and I cut it off. Well, it'll be cut off. I just make sure it's cut off. But then when I get to the porch again, I'm like, damn, I gotta make sure. So it was that type of situation, right? It was a woman, a young woman. She was speaking on something like this, compulsion disorder. So I started listening to her, right? But then as I started looking at her, just with knowledge, I was like, damn, that's the one that sold us into slavery. That shit was bad. Oh, I couldn't even watch it. I think I watched it about 5 or 6 seconds. And I was like, nah, I can't even do that, right? That shit bad. Like I'm not trying to start nothing. I'm just speaking. Like, yo, that's the one that sold us into slavery. 400, 500 years later. 500 years later, look, what's going on, right? Damn. So, I was like, damn. But anyway, how did I get on that? Okay, I don't know. That was a side note, some type of tangent. Okay, no, we were talking about chattel slavery and the abuse of chattel slavery. It's just the hustle again of black people in America specifically. So again, it's variables. Variables are unknown. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And so we use a variable. So how many chairs? Well, we say A chairs. We could say G chairs. That's how many chairs. Until we find out, say we say something like, how many chairs do we need to sit 10 people? If it's one person per chair, well, we need 10 chairs. So if we say 8 chairs, that'll be incorrect. It's not 8 chairs is not the answer. Unless again, you could get fancy. We could say 8 chairs, that's the answer. And then we could say 8 chairs equals 10, but that's striving. Okay, so we're gonna do it again. This is math analysis at a very basic level. This is production, where instead of going to the book and using a question, crumbs, even though crumbs is necessary, necessary now, right? But it's math analysis. So the question is, how many chairs let me just write it, right? How many chairs do we need to sit 10 people if it's one person per chair, how many chairs do we need to sit 10 people? If it's one person per chair, well, the answer is 10 chairs. We need 10 chairs. Well, this is not actually the answer. The answer is we need 10 chairs to sit. Like, that's the correct way to answer that, but we're just going 10 chairs. But if we say A chairs, we could say A chairs. And then we could say A equals 10. And then you can even get more fancy with it. We could say A chairs. Then we could say A implies, remember this symbol? Implies 10. No, that's not that symbol, right? Well, yeah, that is that symbol. But I don't know if you can use it like that. So that's a variable, the unknown. Okay, so I say that to say this. Foundation. All this is just foundation. It's called a trichotomy. Trichotomy principle. The trichotomy principle talks about relations with variables, and that's a overview generalized of numbers. Remember, numbers the variables represent numbers or a specific number. We have to understand that too. You can have x n that equals a set of numbers like x1, x2, x3. That's a set. That's a set of numbers. Let me write it again. xn equals x1, x2, x3. But then you can have x equals a and say a equals a specific number. So that's where it get kind of tricky, where you like, but once you understand this, that thing become nice, brothers and sisters. Again now, how many black people you know mathematicians? Now we do got math doctors, but how many you know? How many do we even understand? But understand this, all of a sudden, they give you some black women that powered NASA. You understand what I'm saying? Like just the power of what's going on and where we are in our positioning with what you can do with your young people. How you gonna be a parent and have your children grow up? Listen, Mr. Sharia is talking about math analysis. How you gonna be looking at that young brother? I specifically focus on the black man because he gonna take care of his wife. You raise your daughter to be a wife for her husband, not a whore. But how you gonna look at that young brother every day? That's your child. You looking at him every day. And you just gonna let him grow up to be nothing? Okay. So it's called the trichotomy principle. Trichotomy principle. Trichotomy principle deals with the relations of variables. So say you have a variable A, variable B. Remember, these are points. It go back to, again, remember the pyramids. Remember the pyramids. The foundation square And then you have the Kaaba. Again, that's a square. That's just planar. So you have two variables, A in the X direction, B in the Y direction. So then you talking about coordinates, space. So then you talking about the coordinates of atomic matter, atoms. So it's the relationship between these variables. It's one thing to measure. Always important to measure. That's experimentation. It's not theory. It's actual experiment. You got to do the experiment. You got to create the experiment. It's God has to give it to you how to do the experiment to come out with the theory. So when you have X direction, Y direction, that's planar. And remember, X equals A, Y equals F of X equals B. Now I said that, like I masturbated a little bit on that, right? But X equals A and Y equals F of X. But since X equals A, Y equals F of A is how I should have said it. But it's just X and Y. When you put it on this planar graph, here's A, here's F of A. That creates a point. This is where the atom is. You're talking about something you can't see. This is 10 to the negative 12. But in this world we living in, meters, centimeters, inches, feet, we done came out with some type of experiment from God where we can see where this atom is at 10 to the negative 12 meters. But we did that with this position right here, which we call A. And then A is, remember now, it's a function. X plus 1, that's just linear, a straight line. You have X, say X equals 2. You can say X equals A equals 2. It's just masturbation again, right? Plus 1. So if you got X equals 2 plus 1 is 3. So that's the system. So that's how your system is moving. It's moving linearly in one spatial increments. How I want to say that? In units, in a distance unit of, in a numerical distance of 1. Numerical distance of 1. So what happens is you create, God give you the experiment, you create the experiment, you measure what's going on. Remember, if we go back to this book right here, we talking about atomic physics. If we go to the first page, before they give you any type of math, they give you the actual experiment. Look right here, experimental arrangement for the study of electrical discharge in a gas. This is how it all really started. And so you just talking about the flow of electricity. Everything electricity, brothers. Your computer not gonna work without that electricity. So then you start from the experiment. Let me show you what they really talk about right here. Another experiment. They actually did this. And this is where we come out with like Thomas's apparatus. And you got Helmholtz. And these are the Caucasian men in the the 1800s. So it's experiment. So if God gives you the experiment, from the experiment you measure, and from the measurement you have a function that describes your system's activity. The experiment is a system. So now when A equals 2, you have f of A equals 2 plus 1, which is 3. So you have a relationship, or you have two variables. You have A and f of A. And f of A equals y. Or in this case, it would be B. It could be y, but again, we're trying to, it's so we understand the hierarchy. X and y are generalized when you're talking about numbers with an S. But then we say X equals A and Y equals F of A. Okay, so my whole point is this again. Because I could go on and on with that, right? Okay, but A and B. Here go A, here go B. Just, you got point A, you got point B. Well, the trichotomy principle, the trichotomy principle says this, and I looked at this, right? I ain't gonna say I meditated on it, but I studied it. The trichotomy principle says that the relationship between these two variables, A is either less than B, A is equal to B, or A is greater than B. This is it. I'm going to say it to you one more time. It's called the trichotomy. Trichotomy principle. This is a foundation principle for math analysis that you have to know this. This is a tool that when you're solving a math analysis problem, you can use this tool to prove your point. The trichotomy principle says that given variable A and variable B, their relationship can only be three things. It can only be A less than B, A equal to B, or A greater than B. That's it. Now, what I want to say is that A can be less than or equal to B, or A can be greater than or equal to B as far as the literature. But this is two-dimensional, is actually what it is. This is one-dimensional, linear. Hold on one second, brothers and sisters. Just so we understand.
Every scoop of 80s Triple Bunch brownie is an invitation to a decadent world. Enjoy a little extra.
Bilayet, Mineh Shayatin Rajim. Bismillah. Hold on one second, brothers and sisters. A'udhu billahi minash shayateen rajim. Bismillah. Rahman. Nira'im. The trichotomy principle. The trichotomy principle talks about the relationship between variables. Variables represent the unknown. And the principle says that A equals B, A is greater than B, or A is less than B for any two variables A, B. And so, like, that's just phenomenal. Like, you talking about an infinity of numbers. In the negative direction, the positive direction, you have an infinity of numbers. You can have a crazy number. Then you can have another number. Right? Then you put a variable on it. This equals A, this equals B, but look at the size of this number. We're not talking about financially. We're talking about you got to deal with this number in some type of addition, subtraction, multiplication. Say you got to divide these numbers. You got to say this a fraction, and it's B divided by A. That's not complicated. It's tedious. You see how tedious that is? But listen to what God say now. We talking about Kemet now. That's why I keep saying Kemet. And really we need to look at the Kaaba, right? The people that constructed the Kaaba. This little structure right here, right? But you talking about these stars right here. You talking about these stars too now. That's probably why they went here. Because they seen these stars right here from building the Kaaba. It's probably how that happened. And from these stars right here, they seen these stars right here. And they calculated. So if they align these structures with the stars, is how I'm assuming that. That's probably really what it is. So let's understand though. Almighty Allah say, look, regardless of how complicated the numbers is. And then look now, so we try to, again, that water, looking for that little exposure, how it can get out. Because the world is so complicated. This shit is complicated. Like I tell you, brother, I sat there and seen that. Now, again, I'm not picking. But I sat there and seen that sister. I was like, damn, that's the people that sold us into slavery. We don't, and my whole point with that, right, spirit and came back again. We don't actually know that the severity that they actually sold us into slavery. That's why when the brother kept saying why they ain't never come get us, because they the ones that sold us into slavery. It's just to be aware is what I'm saying with that point, how God just introduced that in there. Who are we really dealing with? Because once you separate and you start becoming financial and you get on your feet, again now, we coming from slavery. They beat this love, not this love, but they beat this love your enemy. Like we really just don't know the severity. Like we petting rattlesnakes. It's really what it is. Cobras, even though on certain levels, they are tools, like they are soldiers for us. But initially, you talking about you just gonna go out and pet a rattlesnake? No. No. So in the complications of the world, just in being an up from slavery black man or black woman, God say, look, it can only be A less than B, A greater than B, A equal to B. So that's what the trichotomy principle is. Okay. So I done talked a little bit, right? Let me see something. Let's take a little brief intermission. And we done came up on 9 o'clock. Now, what I want to do, let me do this right here. No, we're going to go to this right quick, then we're going to come back. Let's go to the stock market right quick, brother. I think today Friday. And they came out with the, well, they probably had a good report then. As we can see, pre-market, everything is green. Let's see if they give you something with the CPI. Okay, they said it was stable. I was kind of figuring. Okay, so look, now we was looking at the let's just get a little bit of intelligence about what's going on. The CPI is what is the CPI report? Now, I can only assume, right? I'm very ignorant as far as like how I'm gonna put this together. And again, you need Dr. Watkins, whenever he decided to really give it to you, to give you some insight on it, what it really is. But initially, how I look at the CPI report is that if it's good, the stock going up. If it's bad, the stock going down. I remember one time it was real bad. But again, brothers and sisters, they drop it whenever they want to drop it. What they do on certain levels is they come out with the report. They make the report whatever they want to make it. That's why you don't never really know, only certain people know. So, and again, this is not my business. And so I don't like to speak, as we've already acknowledged that, to keep kicking this dead horse. But just so we understand, right? Because you should get involved financially to get you some finances. It's a whole separate world that we don't know nothing about. And then once you get involved with math analysis, it's really God. Once you seek first the kingdom of God, and then God give you math analysis to get your mind correct, where you can just analyze. The consumer price index, no, the CPI comes out a couple weeks. So we want to look out for the CPI. I think the CPI comes out the middle, the June, the Wednesday. What's today's date? Is it next week? I think it come out next Wednesday. I believe the CPI comes out next Wednesday. Now the CPI is a consumer price index report. And that's something that controls the stock market, whether the stock market is going to go up or whether it's going to go down. So it's not the CPI. Hold on a second. Let me see something. What is the report? What is the report that measures job growth? What is the report that measures job growth? The report that measures job growth is typically referred to as the employment situation report or the jobs report. Let me make sure. Let me see something. Okay, yeah, the jobs report. Okay, so we're talking about the jobs report. The jobs report, non-farm payroll employment, measures the change in the number of jobs in the economy. Okay, so from my understanding, if people don't have no jobs, then they don't have no money. If people don't have no jobs, then they don't have no money. And if they ain't got no money, then they not buying nothing. Buying nothing. But we talking about the stock market. Stock market. The stock market is companies. And these companies are selling products. So you need the consumer, you and me, to buy these products from these companies. But if the consumer ain't got no job, then the consumer ain't got no money. So that's a forecast. Remember now, it's the expectation. It's not what went on in the past. It's what's going on in the future. So it's the expectation. So if the consumer ain't got no job, ain't got no money, that means they ain't gonna be spending no money. That means these companies ain't gonna be making no money. So the stock market gonna go down. So one time the stock market crashed, right? Like I had seen it, like it was nothing compared to what the tariffs did to this last crash. But one time, this past September, the stock market crashed real good. And that was from the just jobs report. So I was like, how in the world you gonna how that report crashed the market? I ain't know, right? So that's how. So that report came out today. No. The CPI. Let's go back to the CPI. The CPI is another report. It's the inflation's report, I believe. Yeah, inflation's report. Okay, I believe the CPI comes out this Wednesday, coming up. I don't know that date, but I believe it's a Wednesday. So we got we talking about the month of June. So we got the CPI report coming out. We got the jobs report that came out today. We're going to look at that right quick. Then we got the federal meeting. It's a federal meeting. I believe it's Federal Reserves, what they call the feds. The Federal Reserves is having a meeting, not this Wednesday, coming up next week, but I believe the week after next. Let's see what that, that's either the, what's today's date? The day is I don't even know, brothers, but the Federal Reserves, okay, so the day is maybe the 18th or 19th. I think it's the second Wednesday, not this Wednesday. But anyway, we got the CPI report coming, and we got the Federal Reserve. Now, when these people meet right here, I'm thinking they're going to do an interest cut. I think they're going to cut it. I like how President Trump, like I don't necessarily agree with everything that he does, but I like how he done got on Jerome Powell's ass. I like how he done that. Like he didn't, like Mr. Powell. I like how he done got on him about the cut. Now, that's just about making money. Now, I don't know if the cuts are appropriate. So I don't know that. Now, we do have our analysts, people we listen to that say, well, I don't know, right? I don't really know. I think the cuts are not necessarily bad. It just depends. Like you can make cut. Look, listen, I'm going to pay you. If you're investing in my company, I'm going to pay you. If you work for me, I'm going to pay you. So now we're going to make these cuts and get this money. But if we keep cutting, well, we can't get no more money after we cut, then no, we not going to do no cuts. You understand what I'm saying? So if you do interest cuts, you want to make sure we can keep doing it. But, Trump made a good point where these other countries that made cuts and that, Mr. Powell just, he holding his butt cheeks tight. Now, I don't know how true that is. But when these Federal Reserves people meet, they're going to decide whether they're going to do interest cuts. I believe they can do the cuts. I believe they should do the cuts. And I didn't really want to talk about the stock market, but I did want to look at this jobs report just to see what was going on. Because again, to get you some money, brothers and sisters. Because look, I found this real powerful. Look how the rabbit hole go deeper. And again, just the severity of what's going on. And we got caught up in Trump's bravado. But you got to understand, he was actually the president. And the office of presidency of any country, it comes with a certain type of decency. That's not a good word for that, but it comes with a certain type of guidelines or protocol conductivity. So he doesn't really, that's the only thing he missing. Like that's what he missing. Like, you know, his political career as far as president is over with. But I think he would actually, for Caucasian society, I think if he was to go to school to get some type of political diplomacy for how you're supposed to conduct yourself as a president, I think he should incorporate, we're talking about President Trump, he should incorporate that into how he conduct his business. I think that will help him out greatly, because that's the only thing he missing. Because the Supreme Court now came out and said that no, what he was doing was incorrect. So I was like, it took the Supreme Court to say that for me to see that, yo, he like a damn rogue. He a dictator. Now, there's nothing wrong with, like, if that's your business, that's not a good people personality trait. Like, people don't perform with no dictatorship. We're talking about making money. Dictators don't make no money. Not long term. You lose everything as a dictator. So he's going to lose everything. Unless he take them classes on politics, he's going to eventually, now he might not in his lifetime, but his name, he going to lose everything because he a dictator. That's what he is. Now he not, like he fool you because that's just a game. You don't let people, you know what I'm saying, we ain't at his dinner table. But no, he a dictator. And so it took the Supreme Court to come out and say what he was doing was illegal. So look, all that jive, he was talking about the tariffs. They not even gonna do the tariffs. And my whole point with the rabbit hole was that if you just had a little bit of knowledge about Supreme Court rulings, I even seen something, I asked the artificial intelligence, when President Trump was president the first time, did he introduce tariffs? And how much did the AI said that when he introduced tariffs the first time, the stock market dropped 10% and then went right back up. So I was like, damn, so people did know. So they made it look now, this the graph. This the graph. This point right here, yo. So now the Supreme Court say there ain't gonna be no tariffs, I believe, because what he doing illegal. Even the 10%, I don't even think the 10%, ain't nobody talked about it though. Ain't nobody said nothing about this, about that. Ain't nobody said nothing about the Supreme Court ruling that say that them terrorists, that all them terrorists are illegal. So all of this was nothing but a money grab. Yo, even the 10% tariffs. So I'm saying this now, I think the stock market, well, so we got to look at it, right? I don't know. I want to say the stock market is going to go up real crazy. I don't know, right? I had seen a revelation, but I just seen also that if it ain't gonna be no 10% tariffs, if it ain't gonna be no tariffs, now they gonna fight this now. I don't know why he would fight it, but I mean, well, I know why he would fight it, for the money. But if they fight it and win, then it is gonna be tariffs. But look, if the Supreme Court ruling holds where it ain't gonna be no tariffs, or correction. No, he has to send it to Congress. But I believe the Republicans control Congress. So they're eventually going to pass the tariffs at some point in time, however long that takes. So that is a correction. So that correction. But it has to, that's an if. But if there is no tariffs, then none of these companies on the stock market are going to be affected by the tariffs. So it ain't gonna be no type of price hike or nothing. We just gonna be dealing with inflation. That's it. We're gonna go back to what it was. So if that happens, yo, that stock market gonna go off the chain, brothers and sisters. They're gonna make so much money, it's gonna be ridiculous. That's gonna be ridiculous. So let's look at the jobs report. I wanted to speak more on, it's so much we could talk about with this. And just, yo, that's a Caucasian system. People know that the Trump tariffs were illegal. Okay. So we go to it says May jobs report reveals further labor market stability. 139,000 jobs added last month, which I knew that, but I couldn't put no, like I can't bet on, like not that I gamble, but I just knew that was going to happen. But that was an unreality. Understand who coming out with the reports. So now that that's out the way, we're looking at the CPI, the inflation. Now the inflation, now I'm just going to say this from a social scientist perspective, but again, it's chess. Well, no, it's not chess. They playing checkers. But who cares? They can come out with whatever they say they're going to come out with. But just initially, as a social scientist, listening to the activities of society, the inflation report gonna come out good. That's gonna come out good. I even say inflation that went down. It's just like, you know, well, no, I'm looking at food inflation. Okay, the inflation, the CPI report is not talking about, yeah, I got to remember that too, right? It's not talking about like the grocery store food. It's talking about like automobiles and houses. So I wouldn't really necessarily know, right? I would say that inflation has went down. I think it didn't decrease. It didn't greatly decrease because of the tariffs report, because of Trump's tariffs. He's not dumb now. Now, initially I said he was kind of ignorant. Well, he ignorant on certain levels, but like the whole thing with the stock market and him trying to influence, like he ignorant, like I believe in his mind, he think he can control the stock market is what he trying to do. And you know, he got money in positions where if he could control it a certain way, then he gonna make a lot of money. Brothers and sisters, it's just let me see something. Let me show you this one graph. Let me see if I can go to this one graph. We go to market movers. Let's go to top gainers. Hold on a second, let me go back. Let's go to the week. I don't know. Nah, they got this one graph. That thing was so crazy looking. Maybe if we go back to a month. Nah, I can't even find it, right? They had this one graph. That thing went from 7 cents to damn $700. Can you believe that, brothers and sisters? let's go to, let me try a week, right? They might got the week record. I can't even think of the name. It's a Chinese joint too. It's a no, it was a let's go to loser, right? It's a loser joint. Damn, went up so high. Yo. I don't think they're gonna be in the losers, right? On a certain level. Damn, I can't think of the damn name. Let me stop using profanity, right? Hold on one second. Oh, I ain't gonna never find it now. Okay, hold on a second. Let's go to these people right now. I wish I could show you that graph. Let's go about to the month. Maybe they might be on a month. This might be it right here. No. Anyway, brothers and sisters, I can't show it to you. But it was a biotechnical company, brothers and sisters. I own that one. For the month, what were they down for the month? How much they down for the month? 48%. Damn, they might have dropped bad today, right? Or no, okay, for the month. Okay, I can't remember. I can't find out what it is. But let's go back to the jobs report. Hold on one second. Okay, no, we don't need to read it. But this one, I don't mess with no companies in China, because it's a communist company. You're talking about capitalism. So, but you can make some money. You know, I don't know, but look. Yo, this company right here, it was at 70 cents. It was at 70 cents, brothers and sisters. This company went from 70 cents to $700 in like a day. It might have been 1 or 2 days, but I'm gonna say a day. It went from 70 cents. This is what I'm trying to tell you. It went from 70 cents to $700, and how I seen it, I wanted to get into my system at one time, right, and just picking stock. What I do now, sometimes when I just got the time, like I don't be on it like employment, but I just kind of casually let God guide me through it. But what I do is I go to Market Losers, stockanalysis.com. They're still real good. Market Losers. We got Investopedia. Investopedia is also good too, right? But Market Losers from the stockanalysis.com, stockanalysis.com. What I do is I go to Market Losers, just like sometimes I'll be on the transit, and when I ain't studying, little free time, let me just see the earnings reports, see what company gonna have an earnings report. Then I go to Market Losers, and then I go to the day, and then what I do is I go all the way to the right and look at the market capital, and I look for multi-billion-dollar companies with a market capital in the billions. So this is how my brother said, optimization, narrowing my degrees of freedom. Now what that does is, this is just in speaking, I'm restricting myself to just a market capital of $1 billion, but we're looking for, well, that's still a contradiction, right? Because I was going to say we're looking for that 700, 800 ROI. So if the company got a market capital of it's not just 1 billion. I'd be looking for like, I would say like 6 billion or better. Market Losers for that one day. Now you could get real good with it. It take a little bit more higher level of intelligence. And I just ain't got the energy for that to do all of that, right? Yeah, money good. Yeah, that woman beautiful. We gonna give you my money if you my wife. and you need that, you're going to be happy. But we just ain't got the energy for that right now. But when you say market losers, look at it for the month, then for the year. You can study all of that and get paid. But I'll be doing it for the day, right? So if it's 6 billion or better with a market capital, I start off with like if it's only 3%, we don't really mess with it. Like if you done lost 3%, that's just a natural characteristic of the stock market. But I say from like, I start off with like 4.5% and I just go up to the first page. So from 4.5% forward, 6 and 7, I look for market capital, billion-dollar companies, and the market loss. So if that company then lost over 4% of their stock value for that day, and they have a market capital over 6 billion, then I think about investing. We talking about short term. This is good long term too, but right now with the volatility of the stock market and with President Trump as president and just how he doing his thing, we're not really necessarily going long term, only with specific stocks. So you can get in like this too, to look at some stocks that you want to put a couple dollars on, short term, right? You might catch a Apple or a Riot or a Microsoft or a AMD. AMD is not really going to be a quick flip stock. MU is doing, ZS then went off the chain. Let me touch it right quick. Some heartbreakers. I had a couple shares of ZS. I sold it, and I never got back to it. They at 300 right now. I'll be looking at my characteristics with investing. I first brought ZS. I got into it when I got stuck with it at 220. It took me down to 170. And I was just here making $10, $15 while it was up to 200. And I was being patient. But with Trump coming, I sold it. I just sold it at a profit. I sold it at like I sold it at 209. It's just not that bad, right? But I should have kept it. Like that's a long-term joint. Just a long-term stock company. It's gonna come down again eventually. But it ain't coming down right now. So I messed up on ZS. I messed up on Court. And I messed up on Apple. Not Apple, but APP. I sold ZS at 209. It's at 300. I sold Court at like 44. It went up to like 80 something. Sure, you know about Apple. I really sold this at 94 or 96. It went up to like 340 something. So I feel a certain way about them, right? Okay, so that's just then we're gonna get back focused. So the jobs report was good. So how Allah showed me, right? Allah already showed me that was gonna be good. So this Sharia financials now, research library. The CPI gonna be good. Now, this is just my opinion. I ain't even gonna say what God telling me, because God could change that, right? And make me whatever I am. But I'm saying CPI gonna be good. Inflation done went down. If the CPI report is good, they gonna cut rates. Fed's cutting rates. And Donald Trump done already prepped them by telling Mr. Powell, he didn't came at Mr. Powell how he is, but he was also like, listen, sir, China did cut their joint. I think China cut their joint. Europe done cut their interest rates a whole bunch of times. So he done did his homework. He telling Mr. Powell, listen, I'm not just coming at you man to man, male to male. I'm not just coming at you on the streets of New York, approaching you like, what's up, Jerome? Why you ain't cut them rates yet? Like, that's Mr. Trump. Like, he ain't came at him like that. He said, look, I done did my research. Europe done cut their joints about 20, 30 times. So if the CPI report come out, inflation gonna be down now. Well, no, let me look at that. You talking about cars. I don't know. You know they hungry with them cars. I don't know, right? You talking about cars and ship cargo and probably clothes? Like as clothes went down? Well now you can get stuff, well, okay, this is what I'm gonna say. Cause I be buying sewing material, sewing fabric. Sewing fabric ain't really, it's not that, see what it is what, this is what I'm seeing. It's not that inflation has went down, but more money has been available. More money has been created. Now I'm not talking about just me personally. I'm just talking about like in general. It's more money has been created. Now maybe that's strictly from the stock market. And I'm gonna put Trump, President Trump, he done that. Now how has more money been created? I think when there's a lack of finance, when there's a lack of money, when there's a lack of money, it's like with the stock market, with a stock company, it can be overbought or it can be oversold. So if it's oversold, where if it's a lack of money, then people scrambling to bring in money. So that might be what I'm seeing also. Cause people buying things now. Like it's people, okay, so when you have companies that are selling products, like it's the spirit of the people selling the product. Like they getting money. Like from what I have seen, they showing that like with the advertising and everything, they happy because people buying their product. So I don't know if that's inflation. Because I was initially thinking that the inflation that went down, but if it didn't stay steady, they probably not going. If it didn't stay steady, they not going to cut. But I think that everything is being set up where they're going to cut them rates that next meeting, federal meeting. But to be honest with you, I ain't really seen, like when they cut rates the last time, well, no, it did go up to a 62-week high, right? So, like when they cut the rates the last time, I ain't really see no increase. Like it increased, but the stock market going up anyway because these companies making money. People making money, brothers and sisters. Like seriously, they is making some money. It's not even a hustle. Like they hustle in the stock market, but these corporations, they got product, like they got legitimate products, brothers and sisters. You buy a Mercedes, that's a Mercedes. And people getting money. Okay, let me see what I want to say. Is there something else I want to say? As far as like a good stock, right? I don't really have no good stock you can go in on where you're gonna flip. The best approach at this point in time is what I was saying right here. Let me write it again. If you go to stockanalysis.com, if you go to market losers, they have a tab that says market movers. Market movers, they got it for the day, they got it for the week. And then they have it for the year, 3 years and 5 years. And if you go to market movers, if you go to market losers, You want to focus on the market capital. Market capital. You want it over 6 billion. You want to start off with, like, we talking about for one day. You talking about the loss, the stock price loss for that company for that one day. You want it over 4.5%. With a market capital, a company of a market capital of 6 billion, and you want to come forward and you just want to look at those type of stocks. You still got to vet the stock, but you're optimizing, or you're limiting your options. Because look, now you want that 700, 800% ROI. That's a good way to get in. And also understand that with the volatility of the stock market, you want to have your own market capital, or not market capital. You want to have your own capital. Have a couple $1,000, a couple $100 to the side, and just be looking at these stocks. Let's look at MU right quick. Let's see where MU is at. MU did real good, right? I never sold MU. And I don't have a phenomenal amount of shares. I was kind of disgusted too. APLD, I'm glad I just thought about that too, right? With APLD went up 100%, right? So that's just the vibe. NVIDIA said they was going to do business. Ooh, that jump then went up another $3. So they, see what I'm saying? So it's money being created. No, let's go back to, I forgot, again, the jobs report did come out good, right? Let's see what they say. Market movers, see how I say market movers? If we go to market movers, and they have gainers and losers, if you go to the losers, but let's go back to the gains. Okay, so yeah, it then went up 1.19%. Okay. So the CPI gonna come out good. CPI come out good, the Fed's gonna cut them rates in June. That's gonna send a shock wave, because they not even expecting this, but President Trump know it's coming. Supreme Court done already said everything he doing was illegal. That's why I say, brothers and sisters, the mindset. Why even, God say, why even put your mind in all this madness? Nah, let's let them people do their business. You just gotta have a you gotta have you gotta have some money. Your capital. How much money you got to the side to invest in the stock market? That's why employment is good. Now your employment from your own business where you bringing in money is fantastic. But look, you 18, 19, go work at McDonald's, brother. How you gonna get in college, sister and brother, for a skill necessarily? Go get your degree in math. Mrs. Sharia already showing you the foundation, how to make it easy, where it's just something you got to do. College can be so fun. I'm not going to say you're going to meet your wife. You're going to meet your wife at the masjid. You're going to meet your husband at the masjid. But you're going to meet that money in college. But you work at McDonald's. These are just the places I would go initially. Or these are the places that are hiring. Like you can get hired right there, Walmart. You staying with your mother, your father, your parents. You don't need none of that jewelry, clothes, sneakers. No, you get you a bank account. You even you might get you a business bank account, get you an EIN number. You ain't number 18, just got to come out with start with the name. God tell you it's the name that's important first. Come out with a good name, not no street name. We hustling, incorporated, getting money incorporated. I mean, well, getting money incorporated is good, right? But you know, just be something that's telling you gonna get money, cause you want to structure, and just work at McDonald's. Put that check in the bank. Put them checks in the bank. Get your debit card. Get your brokerage account online. You ain't paying no rent or nothing. You sit down, you tell your parents your plan. You ain't never really got to go to. We could just keep working at McDonald's unless you get tired of it. McDonald's do take up a lot of your time now. You talking about 8, 9 hours when you could be studying math analysis? You talking about long term. You working 8, 9 hours, you ain't studying nothing but flipping burgers. That's gonna mess up your intelligence level. But you gonna get that money. That money gonna stack. Before you know it, you're gonna have 10,000 on the stock market. You got 10,000 on the stock market, you ain't gotta work no more. But you ain't got no money coming in to keep feeding this. Yo, you have 100,000. You talking about you just working at Walmart, you 22 years old. But you got 100,000. You got people out here, you got in the same path. You got the brother in college, he done just graduated with a BA in law. He about to go to law school. But he ain't got no 100,000. But you ain't got no BA in law. So you got to look at that now. Yeah, you got money, but what you got on your mind is you got to read them books. Now, if you reading books and you got 100,000, that's something separate. But again, you networking with McDonald's. It's networking too now. But you networking with McDonald's. He networking with college professors. Now you got a loan, you in debt. That's the only thing with that. And if you ain't in debt, you done paid out to a college where you done paid out. So I think this brother right here might be up on you. He just ain't got no good networking. And 100,000 money is not a good networking tool because the vampires come around. Like if you just networking with money, no vampires gonna come around. So that's the game. You 22, you got 100,000, then you go to college. If you I don't know about this. You see what I'm saying? Like you go to college to learn a skill and for the networking really, and then the system. But no, you don't really need college. Not really. Right? Like you got to change up the whole mindset, right? Because you talking about, I was about to say like to get some employment, right? So that's just a job. Oh, you can read the book and start your own business. Sort of, kinda. But, Dr. Tutor, you contact Mr. Sharia. Listen, we'll sit down and I'll guide you, young brother, what you want to do. And I'll get you to a certain point where it'll be what God say for you to be successful, brother. But just initially, that's nothing. Yo, shit, what? Your parents will flip out. You got 100,000. So, you know, that's the book of Proverbs. Okay. So what I want to do, let's look at this one math analysis problem. And then I'm going to close it up for today. I have been focusing so heavy, brothers and sisters. We was looking at you know, I got numerical methods. Numerical methods or numerical analysis. That's coming up this fall. So I just been grinding with numerical analysis. I've been grinding on that. It's just dealing with computers. Well, no, that's incorrect. Well, it is sort of kind of, but it's dealing with calculations. Calculations with computers. So now you're talking about high-level calculations, but we got to use computers because the calculations are so complex. I don't really like, I mean, not that I like it, dislike it. as a mathematician, I don't really like it. I'm more pure math. Like we talking about the trichotomy. Remember the trichotomy principle? A less than B, the relationship between two variables. A less than B, A equals B, A greater than B. So numerical analysis is just doing understanding how computers calculate numbers. So that's again taken away from the human being, letting computers do it. So that's just electricity, being an electrician and all of that, you know. But what I did appreciate, so we're talking about approximations. But what I did like was that when you talk about computer calculations and the numbers be so large, we talk about error. So when you start talking about like a number that's this small with so many decimal places, this can be a problem when you talk about errors and summation or just errors and you're trying to calculate a system, because this is an actual error. Always understand God is right and exact. So even though this error is so small, it's still a large error. That's an error. And the computer picks up on it. And so if you're continuing on iteration just means approximation. But we're doing a loop. When you talk about programming, I like this too. Like, so when you talk about Python, it's just real good, right? You can start like algorithms, and doing computer codes. So with an iteration or approximation, you just do a loop. So what was I doing a loop on? My first one, I just took a look at, we was looping something. I ain't gonna be able to remember, but you do it like, what is Python? So we say like while true. I wish I could remember what we was looping over. We was looping over something. What was I looping over? Okay, we was looping over, I can't remember specifically, but when you do a loop is just an iteration, keep doing it over and over and over till the number converges, comes to a certain point. Convergence is also, well, it's not continuity, but it could be on a certain level. No, we was, okay, so we was looping for polynomials. So, I like how, on that level, I like how you first got to understand, you got to get the knowledge of how to solve a polynomial, like the theory of a polynomial. And remember now, we had the black brother, Mr. Reed Buchara, black man, powerful. He died young, though. So you got to look at, like, because he was up in Detroit at Wayne College. He was the department head. We gonna get into. We got so much open, brothers and sisters. But we got a whole list of just black mathematicians that we need to know about. But Dr. Buchara, I read his book, and I need to get back to his book, and we need to look at this brother. And he had a book on the theory of polynomials. So when you're talking about defining the root of a polynomial, the root of a number, or the root of remember this is a functional system, the root of that system is a certain variable x equals 0. So say the function is x squared plus 1, when that equals 0. So this is a polynomial called a quadratic. Remember poly, many, nomial numbers. Then you just talking about terms. Terms are like a plus b, so that's two terms. So you can do a Python loop. Well, say you have a polynomial equals x squared plus 1, and you want to find out when f of x equals 0. So you got to loop the variable x, and it'll loop the integers, but you just got to program. So I like that. That was actually real good in that computer world. But if you're continually looping, and say you summon, you're doing a summation, in the loop, even though this error is so insignificant, if you add it up, it'll carry on throughout the code to where you'll have a large error compared to the exact value. So I kind of like that with, okay, so in preparing for that class, what is it, numerical analysis? Numerical analysis, right? We didn't kind of get distracted from just our love, right? So when we got back into that math analysis, oh, that thing just like a fresher breath air. Yo, that math analysis is nice. And we wanted to look at again the heat equation. I wrote it incorrectly too, right? I should have wrote x squared when I just wrote x, just writing fast. This is important too, brothers and sisters, because really what this is, as of right now, until we do the experiment, to know how heat flow, how heat travel, is what I wanted to tell you. Like when you know how heat travels, yeah, you on the streets of America as a black man or a black woman, but that just changed up your whole mindset. Don't never leave the hood unless it just, you want to leave the hood, right? But no, you a black man, black woman in American society. But in your mind, you know how heat travels. Or you know the size of an atom. You know the amount of energy of an electron. Like these is things that you know. But you at McDonald's eating a hamburger, or you at the Walmart buying some fruit, vegetables. So don't never be weird. Isolate yourself from the black community. Got you with some whole bunch of Caucasian people. That's how you become weird. No, you a black man. This is beautiful. But you know how heat travel. Like so this is the whole mindset. So this is the equation. So let's look at this math analysis. See where it says theorem? Theorem is this theory. 2.8 theorem. Every convergent sequence is bounded. Every convergent sequence is bounded. Now, what I was trying to stay away from, but I see it, that might be impossible. There's no way. I was trying to introduce it where it would flow, but you don't really probably understand what that is. So let's write it though. You're not going to understand the significance of it. Like, how is that important in your life? You understand what I'm saying? Every convergent sequence is bounded. Well, what this does, brothers and sisters, is this structures your mindset to get you to think. Remember, up from slavery. Every convergent sequence is bounded. So we first have to understand, well, what is that saying? Like, what is this? We know what every means. Sorta, kinda. Like, do you really know what it means? Like, you know how to use it, but do you know what it means? Convergence, so we don't know what convergence is. Sequence bounded. And what I seen was that I would have to explain each one of these. Now, I can do it, but, like, is that going to be complicated? What I need to do is explain each one of these concepts. And that's a lecture in itself. So you're talking about something that converges? I could just run my mouth, or I could show you the steps, right? Let me think for a second. Let's go to this book right here. If we go to no impulses in the that's what I wanted to look at. Do they got impulse? No, impulse is in the other book. Let me do this right quick. I wanted to look at quantum computing. Quantum computing. And what I want to say is this, right? To get back on the stock market. Let me see how long I've been talking. I've been talking about 4 hours. I might shut it down, right? Because I've been talking too long. I'll be having technical difficulties and actually dealing with this uploading equipment. Okay, let me go back to, let me see something. Oh, that's kind of complicated, right? Okay, so I'm seeing how to do it, though. All right. So I think what I'm going to have to do, brothers and sisters, you know what I'm saying? There's one thing where you know that's going to happen. No, we might have to shut it down. Let me see something here. We're going to... Am I going to get the frame back up? No. Okay, I might have to shut it down right quick, brothers and sisters, and then come back. And it's one thing where you know, A'udu Billahi Minash Shayatin Rajim.